Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to today's stream. Welcome, Filthy. Welcome, welcome. So, there we go. So how are you doing? Are you getting better? Welcome, Lux. Welcome, welcome. Just a casual Saturday morning for me. Not really? It's too bad. I really wish you to get better soon. Let me know if the sound, by the way, is good or if it's too loud, too quiet, whatever. Let me know. Woke up with head pain again? Oh no. Yeah, that's not good. It's not a good day then. Maybe I can cheer you up a bit with my stream. So, Snowdrop last stream found an infusion, you know? I don't know, Kanur infusion, how much is it currently? Very lucky drop. So, yeah, 2k almost. Very good drop. I really hope today is the day that I get an infusion, you know? That's the typical gambling man. But today I feel like it's a good day. Maybe I get an infusion today. That would be good. And then I would give it away or something. Yeah. You will jinx it. Yeah, true, maybe. Welcome, Emily. Welcome, welcome. I hope you had a nice day so far. Or if it just starts out, I wish you a very nice day. And hopefully we have some fun together in the stream as well. So as always, if you have any questions, any feedback, let me know. I have so many debates that I want to talk to you about. So I personally, for example, I'm currently on Warrior and I want to get some testing going because I feel like Warrior currently in PvE feels like no one plays Warrior. When I play with people, there are a handful of people that play Warrior, but most people play all the other classes except Warrior. And I really feel like that's a big problem, that you have one class that is so somewhat not very common to play. And I really hope they address that and make Warrior somewhat unique again, and people really want to have a Warrior in their party. So I personally think, for example, bringing back banners would be a very good way, but I think they will never do that. However, I feel like that would be a very good way because I feel like Warrior needs something that makes it stand out in a way that makes it useful other than just DPS, because I feel like a melee DPS like Warrior is often not worth it to take. I don't know. No, I don't want to start drama. No, not at all. I just want to start some conversations because I feel like in the current Guild Wars 2 community, it feels like the big content creators left for the most part, or are not really interested in making any content anymore. And that's really sad because I feel like the game is still alive, and the game seems way more alive if you actually talk about it and not only play it. So I feel like I want to change that in a way that actually people talk at least about the game. It doesn't have to be any drama. It's just I want to talk about the game because I like the game very much and I want to actually make it even better. That's my reasoning here. Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about that, Filthy, in a minute. Just don't want to start off the stream with something toxic. Or it feels like it has like first design character syndrome. It feels pretty basic and underpowered. Exactly. I feel like people that play Warrior like this basicness. But the problem is, if something is basic and not really unique enough in that sense and very worthwhile to take, then no one will play it for just balancing reasons. Yeah. If you make something basic, it still has to be strong. But the problem is, it's basic and somewhat underpowered compared to, for example, Chronomancer or Catalyst, all those really crazy specs what they provide, and Warrior just provides damage and maybe some wounds, but the healing aspect is actually quite underpowered, I would say, and just the overall utility that it has, yes, it has CC, but other than that, it's very melee focused, it's not very flexible in the build, and that makes it not very, I think, one thing that you could look at, for example, is that Warrior is basic, but it could be extremely flexible. So, for example, you could take every single utility skill maybe or something because you're so flexible. You are, so to say, the master of arms. You can bring whatever currently is needed for the fight, for the encounter. That would be interesting. But I feel like it's not really a thing that is taken into consideration. I feel like often to the time, especially when it comes to the weapons, Warrior has so many weapon access, and I will talk to that actually in my YouTube video where I analyze all the weapons. But I feel like the Warrior weapons, they have so many weapons. But the problem is, a lot of them, especially in PvE, a lot of them are actually not... They are somewhat unique, yes, but they are not very useful in their typical way. For example, look at Offhand Dagger. Yeah, it has some uniqueness to it, but it's not really helping Warrior to make any crazy builds that are actually working. It's unique in a way that makes it bad. And I think it would be better to make a weapon that is actually somewhat interesting, but also useful. So maybe they should completely rework Dagger, for example. Something like that. I don't know. I feel like currently there are a lot of weapons that are actually used. That's good. But some of them are just not used and they are just bad. I don't know. Yeah, in PvP and in World vs. World, overall, I would say Warrior is actually very in a decent spot. It has extremely strong damage. It's very underrated. You have crazy CC, and if you land at CC, you will probably kill any enemies with it. Because your spear, for example, hits so hard. For the 3 skill is very long range as well. And those 3 skills here hit so hard. It's actually very underrated. So I guess in competitive modes, Warrior is somewhat fine. But in PvE, I feel like Warrior is really lackluster. It's probably the worst class overall. Not in terms of DPS, but in terms of just how much usability it brings to the group. Yeah. I want Scepter on Warrior so you can beat the shit out of your enemies with literal stick in your hand. That would be interesting. I feel like the staff is more of a support weapon. Where is it? Is more of a support weapon, and they could definitely give us some kind of stick gameplay, just like the Daredevil had with the, or has with the staff there. I feel like Warrior staff could be very similar to Daredevil staff, but maybe just make it some kind of scepter, maybe some kind of playstyle like that. That is true, but I'm not 100% sure if they really want to give us that, because Warrior already has a lot of bonk weapons, so to say. It has axe, it has hammer, it has what even sword and dagger are like that. You just hit them with the weapon. But I can see why you would say something like a stick, like a scepter, would be interesting. I can totally get that. Okay, let's talk about the comment by Filthy. The matchmaking is not that good in PvP? Yes, but the problem is, I would say the matchmaking itself is not the problem. The problem is, like I mentioned in my video about PvP and why it's actually quite hard to save nowadays, it's just the population. The population is so low that the matchmaking itself can't fix it. So if there are only, let's say, 15 people queuing, and you are somewhat, let's say, higher rated, let's say gold 3 or even platinum, then there is no other platinum player playing, for example, then the match will be unbalanced. How can you make a balanced match if there is no one on your skill level currently playing? It's impossible. And that's the case. That's the case, especially if you play to times where not a lot of other people are playing. I want my PvP legendary amulet because of the matchmaking. I'm getting frustrated. Yeah, that's definitely a big problem, of course. Especially if you're not only in there, or especially if you're not in there for the fun, but more for some kind of equipment that you need, some kind of reward. And then you get a little bit, I wouldn't say toxic, but you get very annoyed very fast. And that's a problem. That's a very big problem. And I can definitely see why this is happening. And I really hope, that's why I also mentioned it in my video, that they would just push more people like you that are not completely against PvP, but are more interested in some kind of reward with it. That they would just give us more rewards so that the population or the general player base in PvP will rise. And then you have better matchmaking again, and those people might enjoy the game then as well. You know, if you have higher player numbers and you will have, let's say, 50 people queuing at one time, then the matchmaking itself will be better, just straight up. And that is something that I really, really want to stress here, that this is probably the biggest problem. Yes, there are some kind of match manipulators in there. There might be some kind of unfair builds out there, yes, and the balancing might not be perfect, but the problem that is really outstanding in my opinion is definitely just the population. Yeah, that's what I want to add here. But I don't want to be anyone that says it's impossible to save PvP. I feel like it might be possible after all. But the problem is, for me, is more like they don't really try. They will try with push, and we will get it. I think when it's in 10 days or something, push will come out. The next beta test of push. I'm not sure if push will completely change the scene, but at least the week that we get the special rewards and the new push beta test, I think it will actually be quite populated. I at least will play quite a lot of that. So that's definitely a plus, I would say, for me at least. Yeah, but if you look at the warrior weapons, there is no real weapon that is just a stick that you hit them with. So maybe, no, not the mace, not really. The staff would be perfect, but the staff is more like a full support weapon. Even the auto attack heals, so it feels not like really hitting with a stick. So I definitely see why you would say Scepter is a good way to go for warrior. So having Scepter in your main hand and just bonking your enemy with it, I think that would actually be a very fun playstyle. I'm not sure. I think that would be probably the weapon they give us with the next expansion as a new weapon for the warrior. But I personally think I'm not sure if that's really what they are gonna do. I'm not sure if they will just give us a new weapon, because then warrior might have all the weapons already, and all the other classes also have quite a lot of weapons, and I'm not so sure if weapons are always the best, because at some point you will reach just a moment where every single weapon is, or every single niche that you want to fill with a weapon is filled, and you will just have something that is either slightly different or just worse. So for example, if you give us a power weapon that has some ranged in it, like the spear, it will probably be either better or worse than the spear. And if the spear is better, you will take the spear. If it's better than the spear, you will take the other weapon. So I feel like it should be somewhat unique as well. And I feel like that can be quite hard to actually achieve. Welcome. I am Tatis. Welcome to the stream. I'm good. I hope you are doing well as well. Let's give pets to every class. I feel like that is the solution. I'm not joking, actually. I feel like the solution here is when Guild Wars 2 is about to, let's say, the population drops off because we maybe get a not expansion, but a new game, a new project by Unanet, and they are putting Guild Wars 2 in maintenance mode. I think the last thing that they would bring us, or that could bring us, is some kind of hero system. So that you, for example, get 4, so to say, party slots filled by NPCs that you can then equip and control like pets. And that would then save, so to say, instance content, because you can then also go into instances where you normally would need 5 players. I think that could make the difference like they did it with Guild Wars 1. Exactly. I think that could be a somewhat smart move of them if they can implement that somewhat easily. Because then people would really be able to play the game as some kind of solo RPG and not an MMO anymore. I think that could work. And if they have the ability, because they already did it in Guild Wars 1, I think they if Guild Wars 2 player base and the population drops really to that low amount that you can't really play instance content anymore, then it's quite likely, I would say, that they would implement something like that. And I feel like they should definitely leave Guild Wars 2 and like Guild Wars 1 running. I think that's the best thing they can do. I mean, people still play Guild Wars 1 nowadays, even more because of the 20-year anniversary. But still, I feel like definitely leave a game good. A good game like Guild Wars 2 should run as long as there is 100 players playing. Yeah, exactly. PvP with bots team. I mean, nothing changes there, I guess. Yeah. Nah, as always, if you have any feedback, any comments, let me know. I don't want to be here too doomer or something. I think Guild Wars 2 is in a quite decent spot, I would say. I think the player numbers are actually quite stable. We actually get a lot of new players. I see that in my stream and my YouTube comments as well. There are a lot of players actually playing the game for the first time now. And I feel like, especially if you haven't played through all of it, then there is so much content. Guild Wars 2 has so much content. It's such an old game already. And I feel like it's one of the best MMOs out there when it comes to just combat, for sure. And that means that you can just enjoy the game and have fun, even if it's not, let's say, getting that many updates in that sense anymore, or that many crazy big content updates anymore. I feel like you can still have fun. You should never say the game is dead just because for you have played everything through. That's my take on the situation. But I feel like a lot of veterans are just like, oh, I don't get enough content to actually play the game anymore. Yeah, that's too bad. Then either you just play like me and you just have fun and play stuff over and over with different builds, or you just don't play Guild Wars 2 anymore. I think that's the most logical way, you know. Either you have fun with variety, or you just set yourself own goals, or if there's nothing for you to do, then I guess then come back whenever you feel like there is more to do for you. It's quite easy, I would say. You should not doom. I think dooming and making negative comments in the community and playing the game even though you don't enjoy it anymore, I think that's a really bad thing. That leaves people not enjoying the game even though they might enjoy it, just because people are mean to each other in the community. I think that's definitely not the way to go. Seeing what's going on in the real world, I really want to deep dive into Guild Wars to feel less stressed. Yeah, I can see that. I definitely can see that. I really enjoy playing Guild Wars 2. For me, it's more like a safe spot, you know. I always come back to Guild Wars 2, even if I had some kind of stressful day. Coming into Guild Wars 2 is more like some kind of homecoming. I can play whenever I want. There will be no crazy changes. I can have fun. I can play different things. If I don't enjoy it, then I don't go into PvP, for example. But for the most part, you can play every game mode and will have fun at some point, I guess. The endgame always staying relevant means that there's a lot of play getting into it. I didn't raid for a while, but I got into it 3 weeks ago and had 8 full wings to do. Exactly. And that's the good point here, that Guild Wars 2, the horizontal progression, saves it in that sense. Because that means that even if there's less content coming in the game, you will actually have a decent amount of content, or not a decent, a really, really good amount for people that are just joining the game. There is so much content to do, and it's not outdated. People are still doing it to this day. So Wing 1 is still relevant, even though it was released with Heart of Thorns in 2016. So, in my opinion, it's definitely, it's really, really good that they have this kind of system. And it makes a lot of sense. I liked it a lot. I think, for me, as a content creator, I can always help new people getting into new stuff. And I have a lot of fun just enjoying the game with the community, trying out new things. I think that's really... I liked it a lot. No, why did it reset? Yeah, but I feel like not everyone is feeling like that. Especially the veterans, you can see a lot of players that are playing since launch, they are not playing anymore. It's just because they have not enough content, and I feel like that's a shame, because I feel like there is a lot of content in the game, and if people always in the internet say, oh, Guild Wars 2 is dead because there is not enough content, that's always coming from some kind of veteran that is dooming about the game, and it's not actually true, and that's the problem. New players will not get into the game because there are some people that say it's actually not alive, even though it is. It's really too bad, and I really try to make that statement in my YouTube and in my Twitch content all the time, that I will defend Guild Wars 2, that it's definitely not dead. It's far from it. It's actually, I think the player numbers are actually really high for that we don't get that many new content releases, which is really, really good. It's showing that actually players are playing the game not only for the content, but also for just the game itself, what is actually already there. I liked it a lot. There we go. I mean, what do you think about that? Are you agreeing with me there, or do you think I'm completely coping? Exactly. How can it be dead when I bought it 4 months ago? It's not dead. It's not dead at all. You see how many players are just with me in the random map here. It's really... Guild Wars 2 is far from that. It's just people that are not enjoying the game anymore because they don't get enough content for after playing of 10 years of Guild Wars 2. Then they say it's actually not... they don't like it anymore after 10 years of playing the game for non-stop. That's actually crazy. I'm farming EOD maps, no thoughts, only green expansion. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, EOD, I think I was... It's like with Soto. I was playing EOD and Soto really, really hardcore after they released, and really grinding them really crazy for the expansion legendaries that they came with. So I grinded the EOD legendaries crazy hard to get the Facets title. And then when Soto released, I grinded for the legendary armor with all of the pieces. So how is it called? Eternal Forge Master. All that stuff. So I think there is so much stuff to do, especially if you're someone that actually enjoys going for grinds and grindy stuff. Then Guild Wars 2 is amazing. Yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, I don't want to always tell people, yeah, Guild Wars 2 is currently in maintenance mode. That's what I think, and it's in Guild Wars 3 will come out. I feel like that might be true, but you can still play the game. It's quite alive for that, you know. It's not like you can't play Guild Wars 2 anymore because there might be something shadowy on the horizon that we don't know anything about. I don't know. Yeah. Can Guild Wars 2 go on any wider than it already has? There's a ton to farm, but once you have your legendaries and skystyle, what other major things are there for most veterans, really? Yeah, that's the thing. I personally always have some kind of goal. So I really like to go for big bags. I really like to go for, example, how I can show you, for getting full wardrobe, for example, getting all the skins in the wardrobe, really collecting everything. For example, I have almost all the outfits, only one missing, and all that kind of stuff. We can go collection stuff, you can go for miniatures, you can collect and go for more characters and build all of them, learn all of them. I think there's a lot of stuff to do, but it's more like a sandbox game. You have to always think about it and say, okay, what's my goal? What do I want to go for? It's not something that is the classical MMO playstyle where you say, okay, I need to get this gear level to get into this dungeon, and then I need to get this gear level to get into this raid. That's not how Guild Wars 2 works. Guild Wars 2 is like you have to have a goal on your own and work towards it. And if you enjoy doing that, then you can set yourself another goal after you reached it. That's how you do it. And I totally agree. If your goal is getting a fancy legendary, then you get it, and the day after that you quit because you don't have any goal anymore. That's very bad. That's very sad. And I hope that not a lot of people do that, because I think you should at least play with the legendary and set yourself a new goal and have fun with it. But I think people are really underestimating that you should play a game for fun, like El Charlatan points out here. I personally play the game nowadays to make content for you and have fun. I don't really have a goal, you know. A lot of my gold that I get, I will just give away. You know, I just did a over 2k gold giveaway on my YouTube channel. I just don't have any goals in that sense anymore in Guild Wars 2 because I have almost everything. But I still play the game because I enjoy it. And I make content for you because I enjoy it. I think that's a really good concept. Sadly, not a lot of content creators or people are actually in the community are doing it like that. Yeah, the mystic coins are actually quite nice. I agree. It's actually quite cool with the return to achievements. Especially because that populates the older maps like EOD maps. I think that's really cool. I liked it a lot, those events. I think they should do more of those and a little bit more unique ones at that. Not only the maps, but also maybe make more, let's say, go to raids or something, and people would, if the reward is high enough, maybe people would actually try to go into raids as well, even if they didn't before. That would be really cool. I don't know. I need to full clear raids for 7 weeks to finish my legendary. Let me back in ArenaNet daily raid, please. That would be cool. I personally think the raiding system in Guild Wars 2 should be a little bit reworked in terms of rewards. I would personally say you should still need 7 weeks or something like that to get the legendary stuff. I think that's okay. You should only get 1 token per boss per week. I think that's okay. But I think you should get the gold reward for it. Yeah. So I personally really advocate for some kind of daily raid that is, let's say, like daily fractals, you know. Daily fractals, you get a daily chest. And this daily chest should be like 4 raids. You have 3 raid wings, or no, 1 raid wing, let's say, or 3 raid bosses, so to say, marked for this day, and this will give you 1 gold or 2 gold on top, just this day. And you can, even if you completed it this week already, so that you will always have people doing this raid on this day as well, even if they already did the weekly clear. I don't know about the exact number that I would add there, but I think that would really emphasize the people to actually come back to raiding, not only do it once with their static and then it's done, but also playing every single day for more gold. I think that would be really nice. Yeah, maybe I should do that, Filthy, with the interesting meme and roleplay videos. Maybe I should do that. But my channel is more like I want to be a positive guy. You know, I'm a calm and positive guy. I want to not always say, no, it's not gonna work, it's bad. I want to say it could work. I don't know what they are currently doing. I think the game is quite alive. I think I want to make the game look good because I like the game and it's actually good. You know, it's not like I want to make the good looking game look worse just because I feel like I played everything. I think that's a bad mental attitude. I don't like that. People play them because they want to grind and get improvements of some kind. I agree. That's definitely true. I feel like you should have the option to grind something and work towards something. If you only play for fun, then the game is supposed to die at some point because people will have fun for a time and then they will need something to actually chase after. So I think they should definitely make legendaries, make new stuff that comes out, new skins, new stuff to collect with the new, let's say, maps and stuff they release. Even if the map is really small, there should be something really grindy on there for the people that actually want to get the skin, want to get the legendary, want to get some nice cool stuff. So I really hope they increase the amount of legendaries they put out personally, because I really think that's really cool to go for even new stuff. Even if I already have 3 swords, why not go for a 4th one if it's a really nice looking one? I think that's my take on that, yeah. But of course you're right, yeah. I think MMOs come with some expectation of ambition on part of the developers. That's why people poke them so much for new types of content and systems, not skins and gear that don't add that much new. That's true, but I think Guild Wars 2 is at this point quite old, and it's actually quite hard to add new systems and new content very fast, especially for a player base that plays it in 2 days is the content is done or something. That's too bad. I totally agree with you. I would like to have more content and especially more systems, features in the game. But I feel like they are really trying to make the game work without changing too much of the original baseline engine code and stuff. I feel like that's too hard for them for the most part. Yeah, you can speed it up with, if you go for the EOD strikes and the CMs, you might be faster, but it's just a fraction. You don't get that many LIs. So it's the raid clears. If you do all 8 raid wings, you get a decent amount of legendary insights, and that's it. You probably don't get that much more. So, I mean, 7 weeks is not too bad. You know, it's yes, it might seem horrible, almost 2 months, but you can get your goal there and can grind on something else, and you have something fun to do. And after that, you have your gear. You know, I don't need to do that ever again. I have all the raid armor, and I don't need to do it ever again. And so I'm a little bit lost. So enjoy the journey. That's the important part that I want to mention here. Welcome, Sagotans. Welcome. I'm trying to rush Obsidian armor as soon as possible. The only thing holding me back is Soto map currency. Is there any fast way to obtain it? So the Soto map currency is interesting. So Soto, the map currency, let's say look at Amnitas for example, there is 2 ways to actually get it, or 3. The first way is doing the meta event. You have to do them anyway to get the Obsidian armor, so always do the meta event each day. Once a day, do the meta event. And then you can go and, for example, here in this spot, and where is the second one? I think here. There are some floating pieces. You can collect those. Every single day they have a daily cap of, I don't know, 250, some number. You can get map currency by going on your Skysdale and collecting some stuff there. So if you do those 2 things every day for a few weeks, you will actually get enough of the map currency, all the stuff. It's just some grind after that. And if you can't do that, or if you do that all the time and you want to speed it up even more, you can go for the reward tracks. So if you go for the reward tracks, that give you the, how are they called? You know, the reward track to this expansion. So the Soto reward track. If you do that, you get some stuff in there as well. Where is it? Somewhere? Secret over here. So you get some static charges as well. This is 25, I think, and this is also 25. And you can get that quite fast if you play PvP and World vs. World. So you do the meta events each day, and then you do this, and you will actually get a decent amount of that. I did that for a while, and I completed all 3 armor sets in a decent amount of time. Yeah, that's my... And you can do the same for Skywatch Archipelago. Do I have it on this character? No, I don't. But there is some kind of... and you can do the same, of course, for Inner Eyes. And you just have to collect those pieces that are specific floating islands in the sky. If you collect all those floating things there with the sky scale, you actually get a decent amount of extra income of those. map currencies. Yeah. Gold plus chance it ascended would make me replay raids multiple times a week. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. Just increase the rewards, make it interesting. It doesn't have to be so that you speed up your legendary progress. I think that's not necessary, but just make it interesting in a way that people actually would re-engage raids and you would have a long-term, especially packing community. Because if you look now at the raids, it's actually, there are not a lot of people queuing right now in some kind of raid thing. But if you would make that so that not only do it once a week with a static, but you would also have some incentive to go back and maybe do some, for example, the easier raid bosses quite often, every day maybe, you would actually have a decent amount of people actually doing that, having fun, and that would help people to get into raids as well, because then it's way easier to find groups that would just let you in. I think that's a good thing, yeah. Legendary infusion that lets you swap between all infusions you own. People will go crazy. Yeah, definitely. I think that's my biggest thing. My biggest wish is an infusion overwork. And if they don't want to remove the old infusions, they could make it so that the infusion system that they already have is completely the same, but they would let us craft a legendary infusion of some kind, go on some kind of quest, or just randomly spend 5k gold on something and we get the legendary infusion. And that would be some kind of infusion that would give us the option to, for example, equip maybe the normal infusions, and then you have maybe some kind of wardrobe thing here up there so that you can go for 6 infusions, and you can, all of the infusions, like I go for the skin here, I have those amount of skins, like there I would click on this slot, would swap to all the infusions that I currently have on my account, and I could just equip the skin. That would be amazing, some kind of wardrobe for infusions. And that would also make it so that, in my opinion, that you not only had people engaging with getting new infusions and wanting to buy them, but it would also drain them out of the market because you would have to bind them to your account and you can't resell them. I think that would be such a good feature. So that is like with the legendary relic with nowadays, that if you want to get, for example, the newest not core relics, then you have to unlock, for example, Relic of Zacchaeus, you have to do the quest once or something to actually unlock it for the legendary relic. And then people would actually do this to actually upgrade the legendary infusion, so to say, with new skins. That would be amazing. I would really like that. I hope they do something like that. But I also think, for example, the agony resistance that you need for fractals should be account-wide. I think the agony resistance is one of the most annoying things to actually grind for. So I think the infusion system with the legendary infusion could be reworked somewhat so that it's not that annoying to do anymore. And you would just upgrade your agony resistance account-wide, and you can easily then engage with new characters in fractals. I personally would really like that. And that would help new players to get into fractals, for example, as well. Yeah. Feels like a lot of MMOs are in the same bind as far as being constrained by old code and engine issues. Final Fantasy is in the same boat. Yeah, exactly. I think the problem there is people don't expect or don't know too much about coding, but if you have a crazy big game, crazy big software, and it's just outdated to some extent, then it's actually quite hard to make new content, even if you have the manpower to do this. If you struggle just to create new content because of the old engine restrictions, that's always a bad thing. And that's why I feel like Guild Wars 2 is definitely getting a newer game, a new project, will be on a new engine, because it's quite likely that then you can create new and faster content. Yeah, content faster, that's what I meant. I think it's quite likely actually that they are currently working on a new engine. I don't think Guild Wars 2 will ever receive an engine update, but I feel like the new project will definitely have a better engine and therefore faster content generation, more straight up pipeline. Yeah. How long did it take you to make all Generation 3 weapons? How long did it take me? I grinded really hard. You know, I have all the skins as well. So I grinded really hard for, let's say, I don't know, a few months. I think to get all of them, I think it took me maybe something like 6 months, I guess. Something like that. All the skins, all the legendaries. So I was going quite hard, actually. So it's not something that people would typically do that fast, I would say. It's more of a long-term goal, but I feel like 6 months, if you play really hardcore, it's doable. Yeah, something like that, yeah. I like doing in Anaios West Meta because you get 2 map currencies for Dragon and Epoch. Yeah, that's true. That's the best map, so to say, to farm in that sense, because you actually have a very fast generation of those map or specific currencies. Yeah, that's true. which is, I think, because it's the last map, people wanted to make it interesting for us to actually engage with the last map more, because it's, so to say, the final one, and if no one would engage with it because it's just the newest one and it needs quite an amount of time to actually finish, they wanted to make it worthwhile. Yeah, definitely. How hard are raid CMs compared to fractal CMs? I did 96 to 99 CM and they were really fun. So I think raid CMs are, the spread is really big. So for example, if you look at Keep Construct CM, it's like if I would turn it on and you didn't know it, you wouldn't notice. So the difference there is really small. But then there are some CMs, like for example Kadim 1 CM, that are actually quite challenging for a new person that just came into raids. So overall, I would say the difficulty is, for most fractals, it's actually, the challenge mode is actually similar or even harder, I would say, than for raids. But there are some exceptions where the raid fights in CMs are actually quite a bit more challenging. Yeah. But overall, I would say if you are comfortable in fractal CMs, then you will probably, if you have a decent group, you will not struggle in raid CMs either. It's just sometimes in new mechanics, sometimes the mechanics that are already there are more punishing, but overall it's not a crazy amount of difficulty jump. Yeah. Exactly, it's just you don't have to touch the border. That's about it. How many hours have you played Guild Wars 2 in total? I mean, I can show you. So you can see the chat now, yeah. And then I go and type H. And then you can see I've played Guild Wars 2 for 13k hours. So 13k, roughly a bit more, 30k hours. And that's, I would say, a quite high number. Yes, if I put that, for example, in playing the piano, I would probably be really good now at playing the piano and maybe could make some money with that. But it's after all my hobby. But the funny thing is, for a veteran that played since the beginning of the game almost, it's actually not that high. There are people, especially content creators, have double, sometimes triple the amount of my hours. So I would say I'm actually not that high, even though it looks crazy amount of hours. Yeah. I think raid CMs are only harder because 10 people need to know their stuff instead of 5. That's a good point, Orange. But the thing is, actually in raids overall, a lot of times I would say, especially in the early raids, not in lots, let's say 1 to 4, you only need 3 to 4 people that actually know what they're doing. 6 people are just in there and they will probably succeed if the other 4 people take the mechanics. And that's the same for CMs. So if you have experienced people that carry you through the CM mechanics, and then you can at least have 3 to 5 people that actually just randomly are there and get the reward. That, of course, is not true anymore in the newer raid wings and in strike mission CMs and stuff, because there you have actually punishing mechanics where everyone has to know what they are doing. But for the older wings, it's actually the case. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's the thing. Getting into raids without filling those crazy mechanical roles is quite easy, because you can just fill a slot, and if your DPS is not that crazy high and you don't die, you will still be fine, you know? But the problem is, if you want to get really hard and carry people, you know, and want to, for example, play a druid and carry people on Doom, you have to actually do the kiting, you have to do a green, and at some point, you maybe even if you are really good, you go for the tank and the green and the heal, and or do all the stuff at the same time, and that can be quite, if you know what you're doing, you can carry really hard in raids, especially in raid CMs and with the mechanics if you take over. But you have to understand how those mechanics work. Otherwise, you can't carry. That's the thing. I use a level 80 boost on a char that is already level 80. Will I get a celestial gear? Yes. That's how it works. Yes. Welcome, Pupsy Mousy. Welcome, welcome. Have a nice morning as well. And of course, the problem is, I feel like your incentive is someone that is... So I'm quite a skilled veteran player, I would say, for the most part. But I don't want to carry people randomly all the time. So I want to engage with them and explain them that next time they're actually better what they did wrong, for example. So I want to explain them. I did this and this mechanic. For example, I did the cannons on the beta. But I like to do other people and introduce them to the mechanic as well, so that I don't have to do them in the future as well. Thanks for the Prime Poopsie. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. So I think it's really important for me that I'm a veteran. Yes, I can do the mechanics, but I also want to explain the mechanics to newer players and not always carry them blindly through their gameplay. I think it's important that you teach them friendly, that you want to help them get better at the game so that they can take over mechanics in the future as well. That's my really big understanding. That's why I want to do some raid training, fractal trainings and that stuff. And I did in the past as well. So that people actually get into the raids, get into fractals, have fun, and actually can carry other people as well, so that we spread the knowledge and not only have a few amount of players that actually know what they're doing and the others just getting carried through. That's my take on that. Yeah. The challenge of Doom was greens getting sleepy. Yeah, I think greens on Doom is not a very hard mechanic for anyone to do. I think if you did it once or twice, you understand how it works and you will probably succeed in 95% of the time. But you have to know the timers, you have to actually be there and not be overwhelmed by 3, 4, 5 mechanics happening at the same time and you just forgetting the green or just not be on top of it. That's the thing. And I like this kind of raid design, that a single mechanic in a vacuum is actually quite easy. But if you then put 1, 2, 3, 4 more on top of those single easy mechanics, it gets actually a little bit harder because there are so many things happening at once. And that's why the challenge mode of Doom is actually quite a struggle for a lot of newer players, because it's adding another thing on top that they are not really comfortable with doing, watching out for something running through the screen. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I call it teacher syndrome. Yeah, I know. It sounds bad. I know. I'm sorry, but I feel like it's important. Yeah. But if they would rework rewards and raids, I think many people would just grind with established groups, because for pugging you need to lower your expectation. I guess, but I think if you made it daily, and somewhat randomly, like fractals, that you just have different raids on a daily basis that are, so to say, empowered with rewards, then I think still that the amount of people that would go in a static and would do that is actually not that high. People would probably do a full clear on Monday if they really wanted to, with an established group, like a static and really tryhard group. And after that, if they had time, they would go into the daily raid with pucks. I guess that's what I would do. So I think you would have, yes, you would have to have lower expectations. That's true. But I feel like if, especially the easy raid wings, let's say 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 rather, then it's actually, I think it's quite likely that people don't want to do that with a static all the time, because you can just easily go in and you will probably be fine for the most part. I guess that's my hope there. But I'm not sure if they will ever do that, because they're always very scared to add more rewards to stuff. I feel like especially when it comes to liquid gold, they are really scared to add liquid gold. Which is a bummer, because I really like to have more incentives to play content that is not that popular. Yeah. I like the fights where I have to pay a lot of attention to my surroundings, even as a DPS. SH, Twin, Lagos, and Decima were really fun because of that. Exactly. So you're with me there, Cheesy Wonk. I think one of the most fun fights in my all of Guild Wars 2, I would say, is, for example, Lagos. I think Lagos is very low on mechanics. I like fights that have some kind of attack pattern. You have to look at the attacks or the animations of the boss, and you have to avoid this. I think that's one of the most fun things to do, because you have to do your rotation. You have to do, for example, healing and help your allies if you're a healer or something of support. And you have to look at the boss to actually avoid the damage or avoid killing the group. I think that's really cool. I think doing some mechanics that are just added on top is okay, but I like it way more if the mechanics of the fight are way more boss focused. So you have to look at the boss. For example, Matthias. If Matthias does his special spinning the staff attack, then you get a really big projectile hit after that, after let's say 1 second or something. So you have to sidestep it, dodge it or something. I like that. Look at the boss, avoid an attack. That's something that I really enjoy. And that's why I would definitely agree with you there. Yeah, 99 has that to some extent as well. But the problem with 99 is, I feel like the 99 CM on fractals, even though it has those mechanics, it feels like it's too slow. It is too slow paced. It's like, I will play it later probably. And I personally like fractals that are somewhat fast paced, that are at least changing. I feel like the 99 CM feels like a strike mission for 5 people, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not what fractals are. Fractals are something fast paced. You go in, you have content that takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete. And then after that, you actually are done and you go to the next one. And those 5 to 10 minutes are actually quite, I wouldn't say hard, but they are focused on different kinds of content that you do. And not only a single boss fight where you need to sit there for 10 minutes because the health bar is as big. Yeah, that's my take on that. Exactly. If that leads to frustration if you have low DPS, and I think what leads to even more frustration is if you have someone that actually dies in the last 20%, because then it's that was tethered, for example, or let's say at 40% when the tethering happens at 33, someone dies at this moment and you can't get the tether done. It's impossible to actually complete the fractal because this person had to do a mechanic and you can't do it, and then you have to reset. That's definitely, I don't like that. Stuff like that, but I really hope the new fractal doesn't have that. Yeah, I want to make that actually, want to make a video about that this fractal, or all fractals in general, are not favoring Condi for the most part. That's the interesting part. They are favoring ranged attacks, and typically ranged builds are Condi builds, or Condi builds are typically ranged, more like that. And that's why Condi is favored there. But I think it's very important to understand that you can play a fully ranged power build there as well. I actually proved that last time on stream. I was playing power Mesmer with Greatsword, and it was perfectly working. It was really, really good. But keep that in mind. It's more like a ranged fight and not a Condi fight in general. So, for example, Rival Mech. With Rival Mech is a very decent pick in this fractal as well, because you have just all of your attacks are ranged. So you don't need to play a Condi build there. You can play a Rival Mech with power and you will be fine. Other than that, of course, like I said, Greatsword Virtuoso can work very well. What else can work very well? It's off. That's what I meant. It's yes, you are right typically to say it's a Condi fight, because most of the Condi builds are having more ranged options than a power build. So for example, look at Power Willbender, look at Power DH, Power Soul Beast. All of those, they have not any range, or at least a very limited amount of range. So for the most part, you are correct. But like I said, Power Virtuoso can work, and Power Rival Mech, yeah. New fractal should be that Mount Barrier, or whatever that thing is called. Yeah, I think that would be interesting if they would just include, let's say they had the open world version of Decima and Greer. They have the Convergence version, they have the Raid version, they have the Story version, and they could also include now a Fractal that has this as well. That would be insane. 5 times the same assets, and we've got, let's say, a different type of content out of that. That would be insane. I'm not sure if they would do that, but I guess could be possible, yeah. I'm loving Staff Condi Mirage. Yeah, but that's a Condi build. I think that works quite decently well there, especially because of the confusion and stuff. That works actually quite well there. But it's a Condi build. I was talking about power builds that work well there. What else could work well there? I mean, you could play some kind of Alacrity Rival Mech, of course. You could play... I mean, Power Harbinger to some extent can work, but not that well. Condi is better there. Let me think. Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to go low intensity, you could also go for Deadeye. I think Deadeye is actually decently there as well, because you have Unload Deadeye. You even could go Rival Deadeye, the meta build, and you actually have a decent amount of range pressure there as well. So those would be the builds that I would recommend. Yeah. Scepter Condi Weaver felt so nice with the extra resistance from weapons. Yeah, that's true. I think having builds that are normally decent shine in a specific encounter because you have some kind of baked in boon or stuff that you usually wouldn't get, like resistance. It's really cool. I liked it a lot. So I really hope that the future fractals and raids and strike missions, whatever they do, have that kind of mechanics that are just, yes, you can deal with them with every single class, but sometimes you have a build that is very good as a specific thing to deal with it because it has some baked in stuff that is actually quite working very well there. I like that, yeah. You can use mounts in that fractal. I think that's actually not very likely because fractals are some kind of content that you can play without any expansions or without any specific expansions. And if you would have mounts in there, it would be, so to say, necessary that you had at least some expansion, yeah, with mounts. So I think that's actually quite unlikely, even though it would be some kind of very likely thing if you look at the conversions and the rate. But I actually don't think so filthy. Yeah. Welcome, Esteban. Welcome. Yeah, exactly. Power Berserker. Good point. Power Berserker can work as well. I'm just playing it, so I should have thought about that. Yeah, true. There are some options there. Don't underestimate power builds. There are actually nowadays more power builds that have some ranged option, but of course it's still way less than compared to Condi builds, for sure. Yeah. Do you have any ideas for new mastery tracks you would like in the game? So if there, we talked about it earlier, if there is no legendary infusion coming at some point, then I would really like to have a mastery track that actually changes that. Because that would be a feature that you could slowly level up. Let's say account-bound agony, let's say getting wardrobe style like infusions. And that could be a mastery track that would definitely change stuff. But for me, I think masteries, especially in the Soto and Chante Wilds expansion, they felt quite boring. If you compared that to Heart of Thorns masteries, where you got gliding, or Path of Fire, where you got the different mounts that you could increase in power, it's actually a shame how bad they are. So I really hope the new expansion masteries will be impactful. They don't have to be crazy in terms of grind and how many they are. I just think they should be impactful in a way that I say, oh, this is a nice expansion. I will want to engage with that. I want to get that mastery. Because if I would be a new player and I saw the Chante Wilds, especially the Soto masteries, I saw those and looked at them and said, okay, they don't look that crazy. Why should I buy this expansion? But if you look at Heart of Thorns and POF, you actually say, oh, that's a really cool expansion. I want to get this mastery. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. You can have mounts enabled only for that fractal, for example, something like Timed Raptor for free-to-play people. Yeah, that could work. I think that could work, but I feel like, would that be really necessary? Is that something that would the player base like? The typical fractal player, would they actually enjoy having that? Or would they rather have something that you can speed run? So, and I say that you move fast without a mount to actually cross some area. I personally think it's actually quite likely that people would rather have something that makes it interesting to have movement skills, rather than having a mount in there that actually invalidates all your effort to move fast because you just can use the mount. But I guess it's fine. I would say both ways are fine to me if it's made well, if it's done well, yeah. End of Dragons had some fun masteries. I would say End of Dragons is where it started to fall off. I think when it comes to fishing and the chatbot, I feel like it's impactful in a sense because you can actually get something from it. But I feel like the skiff is, for me personally, I think the skiff is just a random thing that is not really... I think only, let's say, a small fraction of the community actually engages with the skiff on a regular level. I think that's just an artificial mastery that doesn't need to be there personally, because we have the skimmer already, and it's just there to make a place to stand while you fish. So I feel like that's not... I don't like it that much. And other than that, I feel like I would say End of Dragons was okay, but Icebrood Saga was horrible. It was one of the worst ever released. And I don't know, I feel like the masteries were the best at POF and Heart of Thorns. That much is for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's true. Speedrunning is not for everyone, but you don't have to do it, you know? I feel like that the mount would be in there would force you to not do it. But if you would just say, no, there is no mount, you have to move through a specific area without getting hit or something, no one would be sad about that if there is no mount, because it will take 1 minute longer if you not optimize it. I think that's okay, personally. But I mean, maybe that's just me as someone that enjoys that part of the game, moving fast. But I feel like in Fractals, it's more like, you know, you shouldn't make every single content the same. So for example, in raids and convergence in an open world, you have mounts. But if you add that to fractals, it's like another thing just for 5 people that is exactly the same. Thanks, Frederick. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the prime. Hope you enjoy my content. So this is definitely what I want to mention. I think you should not homogenize all the content. I think you should have fractals that are somewhat focused on basic gameplay, not having mounts, not having gliding in there. Then you have raids and open world convergences where you have these additions on top, depending on what kind of content you're doing. I think that's good. That's how it should be. But you should not make everything exactly the same, because then it's more like, yeah, it's different color but the same thing. That's my take on that. Yeah. Welcome, Scorion. Welcome, welcome. What do you think about the Wizards World quests? Are they good for easy ascended pieces? Yes, definitely. I think it's actually a very good way to make not only easily accessible new stuff, but also make it so that people actually engage with the content just by having a quest. I really like those. I do them almost every single time when they come out in the first few days, because I actually enjoy them. It's quite fun to engage with them, even though I have full extended as well. So I personally think it's not necessary, but I think it's a really good addition. I like it a lot. Yeah. Thanks, Lux, for the tier 1. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy my content as well. Really, really nice of you all. Thanks. But you need for mount to do some specific mechanic, would maybe more engage more people to get the expansion. Yes and no. I feel like, yes, you're right. That would maybe make the people engage with the expansion, that you need the mount. But I feel like they tried to do that with the turtle mount. So one of the mounts they added with End of Dragons was the turtle. And they really forced the turtle usage in End of Dragons maps, like Giala Delves and Dragon's End. But in Giala Delves, it was so forced that it felt so bad to use that I feel like I don't like the map at all. And it's one of the reasons there is because you have to use the turtle there. So I personally think, for me personally, I really don't like forced mounts. That sounds weird, but I think the idea of having the option how you can actually engage with some kind of mechanic is way more interesting than having to say, use that to actually kill it. If you don't have it, you can't do it. If you have it, you can do it. I think that's boring. I like to have a different approach possible. That's my take here. Yeah. I agree that raid and convergences are just two things of the same content. Just it looks completely the same and feels the same, just with a different amount of people. I agree, but not have fractals be the same. That's my take here. So higher level Shadebot course gives you higher level vitality. So I have quite a high vitality level because I have a Shadebot core tier 10. And this is not that important for most builds because it will just increase how much damage you can take until you die. But for builds that are scaling or vitality, so for example, if you play a Weaver, you actually get more damage as well if you have the higher level Shadebot core because you have vitality to ferocity or precision conversion. So keep that in mind. So I think this is actually a very worthwhile thing to mention. That the Shadebot core is just increasing your vitality, but can also increase your damage if you have the correct spec for that. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot, Frederick. Really appreciate it. Have they ever added extra tiers to existing mastery tracks? Yeah, they did. They did that. But they typically do that in terms of, so the Chantier Wilds one starts with 2 or something masteries, and then they add 1 more after that. And then they add in the next update of Chantier Wilds, they add 1 more, and something like that. So it's more like, yes, they did add more masteries to a already existing mastery track, but it was more likely that they actually had that already in mind when they released the content. So it was already some kind of smaller mastery that they slowly increased in size. That's more like it. So I think it's actually quite unlikely that they will do it here. If I didn't miss anything, I have to say. Yeah. As someone that only plays with friends, I'd love a 5-man version of raids. Yeah, I think that's what I personally advocate for in what I advocate for if Guild Wars 3 comes out. I think every single content that they include in the game should have a, so to say, endless scaling. So you could do it solo, you could do it as 5 people, you could do it as 10 people, and I think all of them should scale well enough to be worthwhile doing, and you would have a nice way of actually getting stuff done. That's what I would really like to have, that you have differences there. But I think in Guild Wars 2 that will not happen. I think they will never do a 5-person raid. That's not gonna happen. Yeah. People use Turtle on Claw of Charmek and Dragonstorm too, and it works quite well. Yeah, I know. Filthy, don't get me wrong. I see your point, but it's my opinion personally that I think forcing mount usage in combat is not the way to go. I think the combat of Guild Wars 2 is so good. I think you should use mounts if you want to out of combat. But in my opinion, adding them in combat is not a wise decision, because the combat is so fun and engaging. Why would you destroy it or change it in a way that makes it a little bit less flexible because you add mounts in there? I don't really like it. Welcome, Moinsen. How is Guild Wars 2 doing right now? It's been a while. So I think Guild Wars 2 is doing very well if you look at open world, if you look at world versus world to some extent. PvP is not that good, but all the other game modes are actually doing quite well. Especially PvE, I would say, is currently really having some kind of big push. Raids are actually quite back to some extent. Fractals will get a new update in not even a month anymore. So there will be actually something happening. So if you enjoy Guild Wars 2 and did take a pause for a while, it's actually a very good way to come back at some point. It's really good. Welcome, Ara. Welcome. Oh, the Discord link is not working anymore? I have to check that. It should actually work, but I try later. Sorry, I can't do that while stream, but I can send it to you later maybe. Yeah. Like a new Raptor tier and Bunny tier? Yeah, could be interesting, because those two are a little bit power crept. You don't use them anymore. So you could just give them a little bit of a speed boost for the Raptor, or maybe some kind of more usefulness for the Springer. So maybe, yeah, they could do that. But the problem is, if they would do that, then you would have an update to Path of Fire expansion. Yeah. And is it a good thing to update the old expansion if the people might not have it? I don't know. Could be. I don't know. Yeah. They really need to add more solo PvE content. Yeah, I guess I personally would also advocate for that. Having dungeons or something that are only engageable in a solo way, I think that would be actually, it would not be some kind of classical MMO way for the most part, because MMOs are supposed to be played with friends. That's just how it is, because they are multiplayer, massively multiplayer games, yes. But I personally would say, especially Guild Wars 2, that is already being played as some kind of solo game for the most part, for most people, it feels like, why would you not want that? So especially if you look at World of Warcraft, where you have, for example, delving, that's exactly like that. You know, it's exactly that. Just solo content for players. Yeah. I would like that. I enjoy build crafting, especially for solo gameplay. I think that's really fun. What do you think SPVP lacks other than more players? I think my hot take here is, and I mentioned that in a recent video, and I got actually some very aggressive comments against that, but I feel like my hot take is, if the player numbers would increase, most of the issues with PvP would be resolved. I think the biggest issue is just having small player numbers. But to make PvP better, I feel like more frequent and better balancing would also help. I think they do a decent amount of small hotfixes, but I think, for example, if you're an engineer main, the amount of time that it was since you had a meta build is crazy. It's years at this point. So I think they should make some crazy big changes to PvP every now and then, and not only make some hotfixes that nerf really hard builds, really, really strong builds. So I think higher player numbers, more rewards, and better balancing, and some kind of more banning of toxic people, or AFKing people. That's what I would say is quite important. But other than that, I feel like, yeah, like I said, PvP is sadly not the main focus of the game. That's how it is. Springer should use AoE heal on impact in addition to the CC, I guess. But the problem is, it's an out of combat mount, and if you engage with it with a heal, I'm not sure if that's really changing too much. But maybe you're right. Maybe just add something on top to make it more worthwhile to use the Springer. I guess that's fair. I don't have anything against it, definitely. Thanks, Heavenfire. Really appreciate it. Able to catch a stream again. Feels like the past week I've never been able to. That's okay. Welcome back, and thanks a lot for the subscription. Really appreciate it. Hope you still enjoy the stream if you're here. Yeah. Do what they did with Soto, have 2 mastery tracks for the same mounts, or disconnect the mounts from the expansions. Yeah, I think that's what they would do. But I feel like it's already quite... I wouldn't say it's bad, but I feel like for a new player it's a little bit confusing that you have 2 ways to get them Skyscale, for example, and it looks like one of them is way easier than the other one. So I feel like it's a band-aid fix. It's not the perfect solution, I would say. I guess that's what they would do because they don't have any better solution, but I feel like it's not perfect. I would not be perfectly happy with that. Yeah. But what can you do, you know? Yeah, I feel like if you don't have any better solution, you have to go with the one that's actually the smartest one. And I would definitely agree with you that going for some kind of twice the same mount in 2 different masteries makes a lot of sense to just get people going and get the new expansion out. Maybe if they could do it like and completely rework the Springer mount, for example, and make it so that it's definitely like the Warclaw. You know, the Warclaw existed before Chantier Wilds, but before Chantier Wilds it was actually quite a bad mount. But with Chantier Wilds they completely reworked it and now it's quite good. So I think if they would do something like that, that's definitely a way to do it. Yeah, I agree. Elder Scrolls has some good PvE solo content, and WoW added some roguelike dungeon type of content recently. Does anyone in Guild Wars 2 only main one class? So I would definitely agree with you, Pleb, there, that I think personally adding more solo content to Guild Wars 2 at this point, you know, where you clearly see that the biggest amount of player base is actually engaging solo in all the activities, are not really engaging in, let's say, crazy Discord and static groups and stuff. It's more like people just log in the game, play something alone. Maybe they find someone to play it with, but it's not like organized in that way. And I feel like therefore something like delving would be amazing. I would like that endless grinding content, solo player content, it would be amazing. I would really like that. But it's not... I feel like it's more like a Guild Wars 3 thing. I'm not sure if Guild Wars 2 will ever get that big updates to actually make that work. I'm not sure. Maybe. I hope. But I think it's unlikely. Yeah. A lot of players, especially newer players, play only one class. That's the answer here. But I play a lot of classes. So, yeah. Yeah, yes, that's true. I try my best to not only stream, but also do some nice YouTube content. So good shout out, by the way. If you want to see more content from me, be sure to check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already. A lot of Guild Wars 2 content every single day as well. Yeah, but see, if you keep bringing more players by increasing rewards for PvP, sure, they will play for it, get good, level up, but eventually they will realize the core issues, which is bad balancing and win trading, AFKs, and then leave. Happened to me, happened to a lot of friends that played PvP. The cycle repeats itself. I think that's a very good point. Yes, it's just a band-aid fix, but I think if you, my point is always, I don't know how much effort for a developer it is to actually make the changes that are necessary. For example, completely reworking the balance or something. How much there is, but I feel like just adding more gold on top of the already rewards that you get from playing ranked, for example, would actually make the game mode more interesting, more appealing, without any effort, any development effort. That's my point here. But I totally get what you're saying, that you need more changes other than more rewards to actually make the game mode long lasting. But I feel like I don't know what they have in mind, so maybe push is actually helping there. That's maybe their biggest hope here. But I have to be honest, I don't see that actually. I don't see that push is changing too much about the game mode. But I mean, you can hope, and maybe they have some crazy ideas there. Fixes are right there, but too much work for inits, so no point discussing it further. Exactly. I totally agree. I think it's just the workload that they have to put into the game mode that is almost not... Let's say the player base, I don't know how much players are actually engaging with PvP on a regular basis, but I think it's below 1%. I have to be honest. Regular PvPers is probably below 1%. So that's my take here. Welcome, Problem Solver. Welcome. Good morning. Is everyone agreeing that Guild Wars 2 comes out in a few years? So I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I personally think that Guild Wars 3 will release, and they are currently working on it. I think that's my take. How long it takes until they will release it, I have no clue. I also don't have any clue how long it will take until they announce it. But my take is they are working on it since 2 years ago. Something like that. And now they are working really hard on it. Really, like it's their main work currently. And that's my take on that. But I can't, of course, tell you the exact things that they're working on. Maybe they don't even work on it. Could be, but I doubt it. And I personally think it will release not release in the next 2 years. I think that's not likely. But maybe we will get some announcements before then. I really hope so, but I don't have any clue. Yeah. A big problem for newer players in PvP is just getting one-shot by almost anything. You can't even react to see what killed you most of the time. Yeah, I always advocate for a slower meta. I personally think having more... I'm not talking about a bunker meta. I always want to stress that. But I'm talking about having a meta that is slower and not always one-shotting with everything. Yeah. I think that is, in my opinion, the most important thing for a new player to actually understand why you died is to see the attacks coming and slowly understand what is actually happening. And that's why I really advocate for a slower meta that has more one-on-ones in there, and kills don't happen in a second, but maybe like in 10 seconds, and you can slowly see, oh, I'm dying. Why am I dying? Oh, because I didn't dodge the last 3 attacks. That can make the game way more enjoyable for new players. But it's also very hard to actually make that happen because there will be always either a bunker build or a one-shot build. It's to find a middle ground there, I feel like it's really hard. It's really hard. Quick question, is Herald viable for T4s in any shape or form? As a quick DPS Herald, yes. But it's definitely not the best pick. It's an easy pick, it's a lazy pick. You can easily upkeep 100% quickness and a lot of other nice boons. But it's not the best pick in terms of DPS. It's got nerfed quite hard in terms of DPS, and now it's just a very safe pick, and that's about it. So if you enjoy Herald, go for it. You will succeed very easily. But if you want to have the highest and fastest group, then you should probably go for a different quick DPS. Yeah. PvP is so different to PvE and Circle World with it that it can be hard to adjust. Exactly, it's hard to adjust, and it's only a small fraction of the player base that actually wants to adjust. Because most of the players enjoy the big scale, large scale content of Guild Wars 2. So why would they engage into something where their own skill actually matters? You know? So yeah, I personally think it's actually quite likely that they will not engage in too much new content for Guild Wars 2 PvP, because I feel like it's not something that a high amount of the player base actually wants to engage with. That's my take here. Which is okay, you know, not every single game mode has to be perfectly alive. If the game in itself is fun, then you will always have some kind of type of player that actually engages with the content. That's my take there. You can still play PvP, you just don't have to expect that all of the other players are also enjoying that. Yeah. The bursty meta makes it really hard to learn from mistakes. I blame our World vs. World in PvP, but still applies. Yeah, I think burst stuff is always toxic to new players. That's just the truth, yeah. But I mean, like I said, it's always hard to find a middle ground between not having a bunker meta, but also not having burst. I feel like that's their job as developers. Yes, I get that, but I personally think it's actually quite hard. It's not as easy because there are always some toxic builds that people come up with. You know, that's just people are very creative when it comes to toxic builds, especially in PvP. My idea, nerf all damage output in PvP by 20% to increase time to kill. Yes, that could be a band-aid fix, but at the same time, I fear that could also lead to just a bunker meta. You know, I feel like bunker metas are created by not having enough damage to actually kill someone. And yes, you're right. Decreasing damage overall would probably solve the burst issue, but it would probably at the same time create a bunker build. It's really hard to come up with something just by saying, oh, decrease the damage, and then we don't have a bunker meta, because there will always be some kind of build that you can't kill then anymore. So I think it's really bad. I think bunker meta might even be worse than a one-shot meta, because a one-shot meta at least is engaging. If you have a bunker meta, it feels like your impact on the game is like none. You know, it's like you just stand there and hold the point, but the matches take forever and you don't have any fun anymore. So that's my take here. Yeah, but maybe I'm a little bit too, I don't know, pessimistic about this. Maybe you're right. I don't know. That would kill too many builds, and it feels like. Yeah, I agree. I think, of course, you would have to make it somewhat smart and say, okay, we nerf the damage just down a bit by this on this build, and maybe nerf the DPS output of this build. But just overall, 20% DPS decrease would kill a lot of builds, just straight up. And I don't think that's a smart move to kill a lot of builds. I think you should make them just worse, not kill them completely. Bursty meta itself wouldn't probably be that bad, but in Guild Wars 2 you also have to pay attention to dodges, boons, conditions, etc. I love that it's complex and active, but for newer player in World vs. World PvP, you have to pay attention to a crap ton of things. Yeah, definitely. I feel like Guild Wars 2 combat, I will make a video about that in the future. The Guild Wars 2 combat is amazing, but it has one small issue, which is that it's baseline. Just baseline, the level of the Guild Wars 2 combat to engage in a normal fight is actually, you have to know quite a lot about the game already, especially in competitive modes. So to get into the game, I would say the combat itself makes it a little bit harder than the average MMO. But to master, it's even harder. I think Guild Wars 2, to master the gameplay, it's even harder. But to get into it, I think on average, it's actually harder than the average MMO. And that's not necessarily a good thing. I think it's better to have a easy, low level of input required to actually play the game, and slowly increase the level that you need to actually complete content and get into PvP, for example. Yeah. Wouldn't want to change the core mechanics too? Just maybe tune them a bit? Yeah, definitely. I think you shouldn't change too much at once, especially if you don't know how it works out, for sure. Which class would you recommend for a new player to get into World vs. World Conquest PvP? I think Necromancer is actually a quite good one. I personally think Necromancer is one of the better ones to actually get into. But all the classes work very well in all the game modes. Maybe except Thief. Thief is a little bit bad in Zerg play, somewhat. But other than that, it works actually decently. Yeah. Guild Wars 2 is closer to League Dota when it comes to complexity than other MMOs PvP? Definitely. I think other MMOs in Guild Wars, compared to Guild Wars 2, they are way easier to get into and easier to master, I would say, for the most part. Because Guild Wars 2's complexity in the combat is more like a PvP game. But they focused on open world, which is the absolute opposite. It's like people engage with in Guild Wars 2 that want to have casual content. And not some kind of, I don't know, crazy hardcore PvP. So I think that's really interesting that they decided to say, okay, PvP is very hard to get into and World vs. World because it's very complex, but we focus mostly in PvE on the easiest content that we can push out without any effort. So we have 50 people where you can play anything and you will succeed. So it's really, the split there is crazy. Yeah. Not only that, but you need to learn 27 classes and what they do, what to dodge from them. And the skill floor for a new player is insane. Yeah, definitely. I can't stress that enough. PvP is not only about learning your own class, but also understanding all the other classes. So if you want to get good at PvP, you have to play it for hours and stick to one build and just be farmed with it until you actually understand something. Maybe watch someone else play their build, but it's more like you just have to put in the hours. It's insane. You can't just say, okay, it's easy, I will start in a low rating and it will have fun. No, there will be definitely some kind of stomps coming and you can't avoid them. That's how it is. Yeah, for sure. Build was too stiffly so good and rewarding when you master it. I agree. I think it's definitely an upside as well that's why I play the game. You know, I have so much more enjoyment out of the game because I play the game and can try out a different build, can try to improve at it, and have so much enjoyment when I actually succeed. Then I go to another build and do this over and over. So I totally see that it's a big upside for me. But for a new player, it can be a big downside. Sure. Group-oriented PvP builds are good to start with, because when fighting in groups, your mistakes are less punished. I think it, to some extent, yes, to some extent, no. I feel like for a new player, recommending a teamfight build can be good, but can also be hard, because in a duel, you see what actually happened, why you did die to it. But if you play in a teamfight, you might not see why you actually died. So I think both options can work, but sometimes I don't know. I feel like it's PvP is always hard getting into. It doesn't matter which kind of build you play, personally. That's my take there. What are for you the go-to 5 classes to do fractals with a static? Soul Beast, Renegade, Chrono or Firebrand, Dragon Hunter, Scrapper. Yeah, those. Yeah, definitely. I made a tier list just a while ago, just a week ago or something, about fractal builds. So if you want to see that, check that out on my YouTube channel. I can link it to you. Is this where I talk in let's say in detail about all the PvP and not PvP fractal builds. And yeah, that would help you. Give me a second, I will link it. Here you go. I'm kind of new to Virtuoso, Dagger, and Sword. After using my 5, I just spam autos. 3 and 2 DPS loss. No, you would use the 3 and 2 skill off cooldown as well. So you would use your 5 skill instantly when you swap to Dagger's Sword on Virtuoso, and the 2 and 3 you would use off cooldown after that. That's how you do it. So Virtuoso is always... you wanted to ask for a static specifically? Yeah, I would say definitely then Renegade is a must. And I personally think Firebrand is very good as well. And then I would go with Scrapper and probably 2 Dragon Hunter or 2 Soul Beasts. That would be my... Come on. That's unlucky that they just randomly evaded that thing. Yeah. Actually started playing Heal Firebrand after hearing you talking about it too much. Yeah, I hope that was a good decision. I hope you enjoyed it. So no problem if I could make it a good decision for you. If it's a bad decision, I'm sorry. I didn't want to force you to do anything. I think Firebrand is very, very good right now. Maybe not as good as versatile as a Chronomancer. Oh, I'm dead. How many people are here actually, and why is my team actually not? Okay. When I struggle against builds in World vs. World roaming, I sometimes go into encounters with the mindset I'm dead anyways, won't focus on my rotation but pay close attention to what the enemy is playing. Works surprisingly well. Within 5 to 10 encounters I was able to counter those builds way better. That's a good point, yeah. You should always try to improve, and if that's the way how you can do it, then do it like that, yeah, sure. With the build Summer is playing, you can easily get to gold platinum without a lot of PvP knowledge. That is true, but at some point, I think it's also about how good are you as a player. If you understand Guild Wars 2, you don't have to have good PvP knowledge. You just, at some point, you just have to be a good player in general. I'm not sure if I can win this. Get the dodge. What double dodging here? That's actually insane. Yeah, I guess that's fine. I'll get the thief engage here on me. I will just disengage. Get the interrupt, nice. Yeah, I'm not sure if I actually... It's fine, maybe I get the decap here because the thief can't fight me. Interesting match. Nice, got the decap. Okay, interesting. Dagger pistol, Steve. It's not that good anymore. Okay, we have to go to stillness, but there someone died. Not good. Can I get the interrupt here? Nice, you got it. What is this? What is my team doing? I try my best here. Also about face spam ruin PvP. Interesting take. But I feel like there are a lot of mechanics in Guild Wars 2 that, especially in PvP, that make the game very skill-based and not everyone likes that. I think about faces, this is somewhat interesting as well. I agree. Kind of crazy how impactful MTX is. I generally don't like rivals, but I just got the even hard cross rival skin. I just want to use rival. I mean, that's very interesting. I agree. What is this kind of bunker? Bunker the H here. It's crazy. I mean, that's a Condi harp. That's actually... I mean, at least I got the decap and I died on point, so that's okay, I guess. For Renegade, do you switch it for Quickness Herald for non-CM fractals, or do you play power version of a Leg Renegade? So you would always play a Renegade because Renegade has crazy good damage. So either you play it as a alacrity provider, or you play it as a full power option without any alacrity. But you would definitely keep one Renegade because it's just very versatile and very nice in terms of just overall utility that it has. Yeah. I just got into tier 4 fractals with my quick DPS scrubber. My plan is to run CMs in the future. I want to have an alacrity heal class ready as well, debating what I should get here next. Definitely Chronomancer, definitely. I think Chronomancer is by far the best alacrity healer in fractals. Not even close, not even close. Okay, Tranquility will come up as well. Should I go down? I don't know. If I go down, I will probably maybe die here. We actually got a kill here. Interesting. They are so bunkery, the enemy team, that we will probably lose the match just because we can't get the kills. If we can get the kill here on this guy, then we will actually be quite happy because he's so tanky. Nice. Just have to get the kill now. I mean... Sorry, I can't engage with chat. I just want to get some kills here and some... Oh my god, the damage. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like my team does no damage. That's the problem. Is the safest bet just to go for the discretized fractal builds? Sadly, the discretized fractal builds, I would say they are good. Very good, actually. But the problem is they don't keep them updated. So sometimes you have a build that was really good 6 months ago, but nowadays it's not that good anymore. So that's a big problem. But for most builds nowadays in fractals, you can just use the raid build and you will be fine. But if you go for full discretized build, then it might not be the version that is actually the most accurate one and up-to-date one. So I can't give you any big tips here. There is not a real fractal website anymore that is perfectly updated. Yeah. Is this a 1v2 here actually? It's actually, why is it a 1v2? How do I win this? It's actually insane. How do I win a 1v2? Yeah, but my team is still losing the map, so too bad, I guess. I guess I should get the rally here. I mean, if that's the comeback because of my 1v2, then I don't know actually what is happening here. This map, this is insane. This is actually insane. I will catch up on chat in a second. Three, two, one. No, too early. We got a kill on mid. Nice, we got the kill here. Very good. That would be the comeback of the century, I have to admit. Follow you, follow. So we have this one here. That's actually a good 1-on-1 for me. Sorry, I have to concentrate here because that's actually... That would be a crazy good comeback, I have to be honest. Just don't die here. Oh, Power Herald is also on me. That's not a good thing. Not good. Yeah, now we probably lost because of that. I don't know why my team just left me in a 1v2 there. Sad. It would have been a nice one. Do you think having EU and A ranked pools merged would help? The problem is, yes, it would of course help a lot. Actually, it would help a really big amount, but, and that's the big problem here, I feel like you would have the problem with ping. You know, you just wouldn't have enough people with the correct ping actually. And oh no, this guy's dead now. Now we lost, I would say. Yeah, sad. Nice comeback draw. We tried. Yeah, but I think the ping would be the biggest issue there. So merging the rank pools would be the ping would make the game really hard for some people. It would have some kind of, I don't know, the servers had to be in Iceland or something, so that both people would have the same, both players in EU and NA would have the same option, same thing there. But I feel like it's really hard to make it perfect for both of them. I don't know. I might start playing World vs. World More 2. Those latest ref nerfs for PvP hurt. Yeah, ref is actually, that hurt actually quite a bit, the nerfs to the PvP ref. That much is for sure. I only play World vs. World for Gift of Battle and for Conflux, which was 6 weeks of pure pain. Oh, that's bad. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, sure, Timber, go ahead if you have a question. Always happy to hear it. Does anyone know where the Guild Wars 2 EU servers are located? I think it depends. I think they might be in Frankfurt, but I'm not completely sure about it. Welcome, Snowdrop. Welcome. CM's NT4. Let's go, dude. Let's go A-heal. I don't trust other people's A-heal. $80 gold, 100 gold impossible? No, I mean, but it's not impossible. Typically, I would say if you know what you're doing, you can get it in 2 hours, roughly, of playtime. 100 gold is for a new player, sounds like a lot, but for a veteran, it's actually... It's not too bad. Wait, are they not doing... Yeah, I don't trust. The problem is when I puck in fractals, I especially don't trust healers. I often have the problem that in the healers, especially when it comes to Sanqua Peak, for example, I just randomly die. You know, I dodge every single attack, and then I die in the water phase of the eye fight, of the day fight. It's actually, I just randomly die because for example, the quickness healer, the Firebrand is just not providing enough heals, or I don't know, I don't get any heals, so I rather play it myself, and I know I actually can keep the group alive if they are not dying to one-shots. So that's my... It's not a toxic thing to say, I'm just saying I would rather play a build that carries in terms of how people actually stay alive than having good DPS. That's my take here. Is the build Simmer is playing the heal boon Chronomancer from Discutize? I'm not sure if it's one-to-one the same build, but it's very close, yes. It's the build from Snowcrows, from my website. It's just the best build currently for Chronomancer. I'm not sure if Discutize is actually updated for that one. Yeah, well, that is a cursed sentence in its own. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's true. But you know, what can you do? I don't have an updated website with my builds, but good point. Good that you mention it. You can type !chat, !builds in the chat now in Twitch, and you will get a link to a spreadsheet of mine where I have a list of all my builds with the corresponding updates and updated videos. So you can just check them out there. And I have a guide about this build as well. So just type !builds in the Twitch chat, and you actually get the link to the spreadsheet. Thanks, Frederick. Yeah, that's it. And you can actually then get all the builds that I currently have, and more to come, of course. And for every single game mode, it's nicely sorted, and it should help you. And of course, I will increase that with all the builds that I have, and I will update them every single patch. Yes, and also mention that in the spreadsheet itself, and it should work it's very fresh. I did it yesterday. So if you have any comments and any feedback on that, if you say, okay, there needs to be another column or whatever that tells me about that, please let me know. I really want to improve that, but it's definitely I think a work in progress thing. And it's, in my opinion, actually should help you to get to the correct builds that you're looking for. As a new player who enjoys PvP and did so in many games, Guild Wars 2 is by far the hardest to get started in. The learning curve is insane. Maybe they could give a damage taken reduction buff, depending on... I think the problem is it's just the combat is hard. There are so many classes nowadays. It's a game with a lot of intricacies. You have so many different mechanics that make it actually quite hard. I feel like it's very, very hard to get into just because of so many reasons. I think just giving a single debuff or buff that helps you doing alive, it's actually not... It might not be the only thing that helps you. But I think you're right. Of course, the learning curve should be lowered. And I hope with Push, with the new game mode that comes up next week, that might help. Yeah. How would you rank importance of roles in Fractal Strike? Heal support, DPS, DPS? Yes, that's how I would do it. I would always say the healer is more important than the offensive support, and this one is more important than the DPS. Yes. Yeah, I mean, ranked is also horrible in that sense, because the ranked PvP is like that you will have a spread of people that one player won the monthly AT, and then you have someone that is in silver tier. So the differences in terms of how good the players are is actually insane. It's really hard to actually make a fair match in that sense. It's really, really hard. Yeah, sorry for the self-advertisement there, but I feel like I'm putting a lot of effort in my builds, and I want to actually help those people, and that's why I also made the spreadsheet there. I want the spreadsheet should make people understand how which kind of builds they should play at which moment in time, and if my build guide is still up to date from a month ago, then maybe it's worthwhile to link to it. That's my whole reason there. Guild Wars 2 is an old game with a ton of content updates over the years. Exactly, and that doesn't make it easier to get into. Also in PvP and World vs. World, because of all the classes that were added with that. That's just on top of that, yeah. Yeah, the difference between support and DPS is quite big. Especially because a lot of DPS players just don't do mechanics, and then you have just a completely useless person that does a little bit of DPS. Yep. The Guild Wars 2 community needs a one-stop shop for meta builds. I mean, there are to some extent, but the problem is I feel like a lot of people go to those websites, copy the build, and then they think it plays its own. That's why I want to really emphasize and stress that you should not only copy a build, but you should also try to understand it. You should try to read the skill descriptions, maybe have someone like me explain it in a rotation video and that kind of stuff. So that in my opinion is something that definitely helps a lot to keep the people, make them better at the start already in the game. But I'm not 100% sure if everyone agrees with me there. I think explaining the rotation, explaining the skills, why they are so important to actually use all the time, and why do you need to upkeep that buff, why you need to do that. I think that's really helpful, and that's why I try to make guild guides about stuff and not only tell you this is the build and that's it. I really want to explain it to new players, and I think a lot of people, especially on my YouTube channel, actually agree with me there. Yeah. So sorry, final one. I didn't see the question. So if you want to hear my answer to it, maybe you have to repeat it again. Sorry. Exactly. You have to copy the build. You have to understand why you take this kind of gear, this kind of just traits and stuff, and then you have to understand what the skills do. Have to adjust to it when it's actually necessary. And more importantly, you should also. That was close. You should also try to not only... Oh, come on. Everything is red on the boss. You should also get the rotation down, train a bit, understand why people actually have this rotation, what is important about the rotation, so that you can adjust if there's something chaotic happening, and there will always be something chaotic happening. So all that kind of stuff you have to slowly understand and actually get used to. Yeah, I can't always do it, you know. I try to boon strip as much as I can, but I have it not always off cooldown. My friends, yeah. How can I farm tier 6 materials efficiently? So to farm them efficiently, the shortest answer, and I'm not joking, is just farm gold. Yeah, farming gold is the most efficient way to get tier 6 maps. But if you want to farm them directly without farming gold, you would go to Living World Season 4 maps and just complete them and do some meta events there, because meta trains for that reason. And then you will get a lot of volatile magic that you can convert into tier 6 materials. You can convert Lotus into tier 6 materials. But that's about it. There is not a real thing that I would say is giving you crazy amounts of tier 6 materials, and that's about what you do. But the best thing is gold and volatile magic. Yeah. Yeah, gathering tools can actually help a lot as well. But of course, only if you gather a lot. If you don't gather a lot, it's not really... It doesn't make that much of a difference then. Oh, he's almost in range. Sometimes I notice that on this fractal I don't have enough heal, but most of the time I do, so it's fine. Yeah, I think support in Guild Wars 2 is heavily underrated how strong it is. And it's actually especially offensive supporters, I would say, are not harder to play than DPS. The only thing that is harder to play than DPS are supporters that are really healing as well and doing all the mechanics. That can be a little bit more challenging. But other than that, I would say supports, especially offensive supports, are really worthwhile running. Because if you think about it, you get around 80% of your DPS, of your full DPS build player. But, and that's the crazy part, you also provide a buff that gives 20 to 25 to 50% of the damage output of your group increase. So it's actually insane how much you actually provide to your party. So if you just think about that, then you are the most important player in the group actually. So I would heavily recommend to players that want to try out different things, go for an offensive support or for full healer, and you will have a really good time, because it's just one of the best things to actually play. I personally like to play a lot, especially in newer groups, to play the healer, because then I can carry with all the nice boons and buffs and heals and mechanics and stuff. But if you are not that secure about the mechanics and stuff yet, then I would go for an offensive support where you can still carry a lot. Yeah. Are their kicking skills strong? I don't exactly know what you mean with that. Are there some boon builds that need perfect rotations for boon upkeep? Yeah, that's true. Some builds are actually really tight on the boons, but if you play a build that is very safe on the boon side, then you will be really good to go. I think you should play builds that are really safe in the boon uptime, because then you don't have any issue even in chaotic situations. But that's of course a very good point. If you want to play a build that is very tight on the boon uptime, then you have to execute it perfectly as well. It's me. And that's why I take Dagger and Distracted, by the way, to actually kill this guy here very fast. If I would do that on Scepter, I would actually need way longer. And that might be an issue to actually finish the fight here. Yeah, account points, achievement points. You know, I have quite a lot of achievement points, you know, 43k, and I'm not a very good player. That doesn't mean that there are people that have way less amount of achievement points and they're way better. I think that's one of the most important things to understand in Guild Wars 2, is that you can be a player that started playing for 3 weeks and you will be better than a player that played for 10 years. That's just Guild Wars 2, you know, in a nutshell. You can. There is no way to actually know how good a player is, other than just looking at their skill actually in game, in the expression there. Yeah. So when roaming in World versus World, I feel stupid trying to fight Mirages as a Willbender. I feel like I'm doing something very wrong, just chase them around and die. Yeah, Willbender and Mirages, that's like a matchup where it's like very volatile. So sometimes you instantly die, either one of them. But I would say overall, Mirage got less nerfs than Willbender, so Willbender might be a little bit harder to actually perform in that 1-on-1. But other than that, I would say Mirage is just very slippery. If you can catch them with your CCs once, then it's very likely that you will win. But if you can't, you will lose. That's just the fair assessment of the situation. But, oh my god, how many people are dead? And the boons, the boons. I mean, it's fine. It's just the last phase, but still. I can't boon strip everything here. We have 2 necromancers and I have the only boon strip. What? What are they doing? Are they not playing Scepter or what? It's actually crazy. I have 53 boon strips and we have 2 necromancers and none of them have boon strips? What are they doing? Have you put a lot of real money into the game? I have I would say almost exclusively put real money into the game for getting the expansions. That's the true answer here. The reason for that is before I started creating content, I was going quite hard in making gold in Guild Wars 2 using spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. So I was never really forced to invest real money to play Guild Wars 2 or to get some stuff done in Guild Wars 2. But yeah, so my answer would be no, because I actually put a lot of effort in farming gold on my own. I'm planning to buy End of Dragons for the Willbender. Are their utility abilities good? I would say decent. There are better ones. But Willbender overall in all game modes is really, really good. I think it's one of the best End of Dragons specs for that matter. Maybe with Virtuoso and Catalyst, those 3 are... Well, maybe with Untamed. End of Dragons has really good elite specs, so it's a really good expansions to get. Because just for that even, yeah. I mean, focusing on achievement points, that is typically not really... If you see someone with 50k achievement points, it's quite likely that they are actually decent at the game. But that doesn't mean they are really good. I noticed a lot of times when I look over the people that are in my squad and I just see, oh, there's someone with 50k achievement points. That doesn't mean they are crazy carrying. They just know what they're actually somewhat doing. Yeah. I feel like World of Warcraft Final Fantasy refugees often just jump into Fractal Strike raids and clear all of it within 300 hours. I'm sitting here feeling like a total noob because I'm focused on different things. Don't get me wrong, I'm impressed with those people, just interesting. Yeah, I think that's because they come from games that are focused on those instance and party and just organized groups. If you play Guild Wars 2 and start out as an MMO in Guild Wars 2, then it's more like you just have different things to focus on and you don't really care about those really MMO-style contents like dungeons and raids. That's just what they know that they are actually quite good in and they can easily do that. But if you would put them into some kind of world versus world fight, they would struggle a lot because that's not what they actually are used to for the most part. And I think that's completely fair, you know, you don't have to have everything that is absolutely the same. I think everyone is different, so if you enjoy playing different things, don't worry about being not as good as someone that only has 300 hours and still clears all the fractal CMs. That doesn't really matter. Just have fun, and if you want to learn something new, you should just try it out and you will be fine. I should actually also get some healing food. That's a good point. What would you recommend for players that want to make gold from the TP? Making spreadsheets of hundreds of items will follow the value over a month. So I personally would say tracking data that is important. For example, like you want to see what kind of resources come out of, for example, how's it called? Come out of the unidentified gear. So unidentified gear is one of the best things to actually make gold out of. You just open it and see what comes out of it, and then you salvage it and you see how much money you can make with that. You open other bags, for example, heavy loot bags from World vs. World. You can make money out of that as well. So it's just like that. Always put your stuff that you get, everything that you do in Guild Wars 2, put into a spreadsheet and see what you actually can get out of that and what actually makes it a lot of sense to actually invest or to save up, and then you maybe craft something out of that. All of that you have to take into account and take into a spreadsheet. And the most important part, what I want to say about making gold in Guild Wars 2 is making stuff efficient. So if you want to craft a legendary in the future and you farm gold for that, you should not sell stuff that you need for the legendary and buy that later, because then you will have to pay taxes on that. But if you just save stuff, then you will have that in the future and will not have paid the taxes. That's obviously a very straightforward choice, but the same goes, of course, for making money. So that means if you have stuff, for example, any tier 6 materials that you can use to craft something and then sell on the TP, then if you can make that work without having to use the TP because you use it in 3 different recipes, then you will... Oh, come on. No, I'm dead. Very, very good that this guy died here. Completely fucked up. We wanted to rest here, then we used the portal, and I did get... I did get stuck outside of the range of the nice thing. Nice, the helpful rock. It's fine, we might still kill it, but it's still... It's annoying. I think personally, the problem is with the 50k AP people is that a lot of times, I don't want to be toxic here, but a lot of times they are people that are really focused on the just achievement hunting process and are not really focused on getting more, getting better at the game. So I would agree with you, but I didn't want to be toxic when I said that. I just wanted to say they might be okay with in the game, but not absolutely crazy good there. Maybe they are really bad. I don't know. It depends. I wouldn't generalize in general. So yeah, that's what I would say. What would you recommend for players? Yeah, personally, I would, like I said, I have some guides on my YouTube channel about how to make gold on the TP and stuff. So I have, I think, a three-time series about how to make gold on the TP. So you can check that out. That's really nice for players that really want to really try hard with the TP. But it's definitely, you have to, it's not some kind of easy money. You can make a lot of gold with that, but it's a lot of investment of time as well. It's not something that you can say, oh, I will get hundreds of gold per hour. No, you have to invest time in it, and then you can make that, but only then. That's the important part that you have to understand here. Tax evasion is based. That's the true thing. Don't clip me on that. Only in Guild Wars 2. Yeah. That's what that's the best part. Saving TP money is the best part of saving things. Yeah, for sure. What offensive supports do you recommend for new players? If you really want the easiest ones, you would go with Quickness Herald or you would go with Unload Deadeye. But if you want something that is really good as well in higher level groups, then I personally think there are a lot of options there. What is a good one? I mean, in Fractals, Power Elect Renegade is absolutely really, really good. Other than that, what's also good? Scrapper, Quickness Scrapper is really good. What else is good? Quickness Untamed is really good. So there are a decent amount of picks, but every single class has a really good offensive support. But to get started, I would start out with the easier ones, to be honest, because the harder ones might not read the good things. I don't know. How do you keep track of every item you get? Do you just focus on IDs and some gatekeep items for ledges and stuff? Typically, you can use websites that can download your inventory stuff into your spreadsheet. So you would use that. And then you can keep track of all the items that you get. So you wouldn't do it by hand, because then it's impossible to do that in a fast time. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. Come on, I want to heal you here. What are they doing? I really want to heal them, but it feels like they are running away from my heals. Especially account-bound stuff is good to memorize, so you don't waste currency. Exactly. I would always, especially if you have a lot of gold, or if you don't spend it enough, one of the most annoying things to actually get is account-bound currency, so never waste it. Yeah, never waste it. I really fear the CC here. I really do. I think that's gonna be horrible when we get to the CC phase. Yeah, welcome, Mr. Pax, to the end game then. Welcome to the end game. Yeah. Okay, we get the CC here once. That's good. I mean, getting better gear, I would recommend going for strike missions and raids, because those are actually giving you a lot of ascended gear as well passively, and then you can continue your journey on your fractal level, because that's the thing that you should push for, getting higher fractal levels to get more gold in fractals. But other than that, I would say just continue playing and you will actually get better gear as well. Just play. The Wizard's World will update in 26 days or something. So if you just continue playing there, you will get actually a decent amount of ascended stuff. So you purchase the ascended gear from the Wizard's World now, and you purchase again when there's the update. That was a lot of CC. Look at my CC. How much CC I did. That's actually really good. Chronomancer is crazy. If you have the Continuum Shift with the MOA signet up, it's actually insane. Boons. You want to see the boons. There we go. I'm using the DIF add-on, but I'm not sure how accurate it is. I mean, it should be quite accurate, actually. It actually worked out decently well, because I was actually doing all the CC, but only because I managed. I think if I didn't manage it, we would be in a... yeah, it would be painful. That much is for sure. So your prediction was wrong. We made it. I don't know. This guy doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing. 133 AR. It's a little bit too little, I would say. I don't know. I mean, I always look at the CC bar. You know, I have more CC than all of them together. Chronomancer is so broken. It's actually insane. Can we actually do raids and strikes? Yes. If you strike missions and raids, you can do with fully exotic gear. There is no problem at all. So if you play them, you will actually get more loot from them, more gold, and a lot of ascended stuff. But like I said, ascended gear, you go from the Wizard's Vault, you get those two things, so some armor pieces and some weapon pieces. You get them before the reset. The reset will happen in 24 days, so get them before that. And after that, you farm all your strike missions and your raids, and continue going into fractals, and you will get so much ascended stuff that you can get a full ascended character in no time. Yeah, that's my tip here. Oops. Yeah. And high volatile market, because you can't ignore them once you enter them. I mean, the problem is, I think I can't give you any big tips in terms of how you make money, because for the most part, that means that a lot of people here might engage with that, and it might not be enough to actually get enough gold out of it anymore. You know, so you have to find something for yourself that actually works for you, and use a spreadsheet to actually make gold out of that. What do you run as weapons on a Chronomancer for group content? It depends if you're a healer. If you're a healer, you would run Rival and you would run Shield, and in the main hand you can run anything. If you play an offensive support, you would run Spear and Dagger Sword for the most part. If you run a full aggressive Chronomancer for whatever reason, you would run the same as well. But typically I would say Spear for the offensive builds and Rival for the defensive builds. That's the most important weapon, yeah. But you can also go Greatsword, don't worry. I'm excited for the reset. I hope the second part of the map will have some cool events. I hope that as well. But the problem is, I feel like it might not be as big as we hope it to be. Thanks for the raid, Nyla. Really appreciate it. What were you up to? We are just doing some fractals, and meanwhile we are talking about the game and the new... Currently we are talking about the new map that will come out, and I hope it will be big, but I personally think it might not be as big as we hope it to be. I think it will just be doubling the size of the already released map with the latest patch. But I don't know. I feel like they are currently working on something in the background, and not a lot of stuff is actually invested into Guild Wars 2 for that matter. But I'm not completely sure. I think I'm even more excited for the next expansion. I think the delay to October actually made me more hype about the expansion than if they would just announce it for August. I have to be honest. I think they are working either on something big, or it's at least being somewhat really interesting, the content. I personally think it will be hype. I'm really happy about the expansion coming out in October. So I want to get some news on what is actually in there. That would be amazing, but I feel like we have to wait a few months to actually get that. But I agree, it will be a really big, interesting event for sure. Yeah, we've played strikes at least in some metas. Did a few achievements. Very good. Very good. Yeah, I did some metas before. Now I'm playing fractals and just relaxed, talking about stuff while I try to carry this group. Because it seems like not all the people actually know what they are doing here. So let's see if we can actually succeed here. This one looks okay. But it was close actually. Was okay. Yeah, hopefully some teaser in the summer. Yeah, I agree. I think they should definitely hype this up. I think they should actually not only hype up the expansion, but they should also hype up more the updates. I think the updates, if they would hype them up, or at least give us, for example, there will be a new fractal with the next update. I think they should hype that up like crazy. It doesn't matter if there is a small map. If there is a fractal coming, that's a once a year event. They should give us some hype for that, you know. But the expansion definitely should get some crazy big hype as well. That much is for sure. Crazy that a game so old makes new content. I mean, I personally think that's what you have to do. If you don't do that, then you will lose your customers. And you can see that currently a lot of veterans are playing Guild Wars 2 on and off, whereas the new players actually have crazy amounts of content in the game. So it's like a big split between Guild Wars 2 being a lot of players that are actually quite old are leaving. So old school players are just not playing the game that much anymore. And a lot of new players are coming back and enjoying the game because it's so big and there's so much cool stuff in there. But a lot of old veterans are not always really engaging in 24/7 in Guild Wars 2 anymore. Which is sad, but it's just the truth, yeah. New expansion? Yeah, there will be a new expansion of Guild Wars 2 in October. That much is for sure. We don't know anything about it yet, though. So I can't tell you what is actually happening and what will be the theme or the new cool feature. We don't know anything. It could be anything. It could be dual wielding scepters. It could be getting a new core trade line. It could be getting new core utility skills. We don't know anything. Could be really, it's really completely open. Yeah, so I just hope for the best. Maybe we get new elite specs for some people like me that I would really enjoy that, even though the balancing would be horrible. But let's see. I actually doubt it, but we can hope for it at least. I'm happy they delayed it. Yeah, I agree. I think if they wouldn't delay it, I was fearful that it was not as big as we hoped it to be. Now with the delay, I personally think it's actually quite likely that it will at least be somewhat decent in the size, or at least somewhat some cool, nice features in there. What is this guy doing? Yeah, the marketing in Guild Wars 2 is probably the worst thing that they have in the game. That much is for sure. I think no one in the community would disagree to this. The marketing of Guild Wars 2 is just horrible. Sadly, because I think the game could be so much better if they would market it better. Yeah. What are they doing? It's actually scary. How is this guy dying off here? Yeah, I can't rescue then. What is going on? What? This is a 10k group. What are they doing? Okay, this guy's DC'd, I guess. Yeah, let's reset. Crazy. What are they doing? What is happening? Yeah, I think they just should need a new taxi advertisement, and that the game would be saved. I'm not joking here. Something that just goes into the news like crazy advertisement, the game would actually be quite getting a quite big of influx of new players. So many new players on Reddit who want to love the game but feel lost without a YouTube written guide. Yeah, I think the game is just very big. I try my best to keep up and make new content for new players as well, but it's just so big I can't do that on my own. I think the community has to help out there. What is going on? Now they leave. What? We lost one player? What is going on? This is 10k. Yes, this is 10k and we lost one player. It's horrible. I don't even know what's going on here. Oh, what did I get myself into? Oh no. Yeah, that's what the marketing thought. Yeah, I guess exactly. What? Why Ahil? I am DPS. Right. Yeah. Like it was so bloated. You just have to enjoy exploring it. Exactly. You need to do so much stuff and just have fun while experiencing the journey. That's the mindset you should have. I didn't mind because I consume content outside the game anyways, but not everyone is like that. But I feel like a lot of MMOs have the problem that you can't really get through all of the stuff without getting some help. I personally think that's a big problem. Is it Garnet? It's the real Garnet. Oh my god. Legendary Garnet. Crazy. Yeah. How can I reset utility talents? So you can reset them. You can change them by clicking on them, you know, like this. Just clicking on your traits and you can change them. I don't know what you exactly mean with reset. If you talk about the reset skills, you can actually get this one as well. I'm not completely sure what you actually talk about. I started around Chantia launch, and yeah, it's a bit overwhelming. I mainly just did the Chantia fighting up Vale all day, learning combat on different classes. I mean, better than nothing, you know. Now you know something. That's good. Yeah. Text for all homesteads. Ooh, that would be crazy. I like it. Are you UI elements all from ArcDPS? So this is ArcDPS and this is ArcDPS. My mouse and my FPS counter here on top, that's from Blish Hut. And this one is an ArcDPS add-on. So an add-on for the add-on. I'm not joking. Yeah. I mean, I think the new player experience for really try-hard MMOs like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, Guild Wars 2, it has to be, it's challenging. It's a big game. It's always challenging. But I feel like there are games that make it worse. There are games that make it better. I can't really tell because I'm a veteran after all. Yeah, I think it would be such a crazy good content if you would make the homesteading a little bit more, so to say, exclusive. Not everyone gets it. That would be such a crazy content. People would revolt in the Reddit if you would make it somewhat you have to buy it or something. From other players, the homestead, that would be crazy. Like housing in Final Fantasy, where you have to be really rich to actually get the full experience there. That would be crazy. Yeah, there are enough points to get everything, even more. So if you complete all the hero challenges and stuff, you will actually have enough stuff for almost the next upcoming elite spec, if there will ever be one. Yeah. I think Guild Wars 2 new player experience is fine. I think it's I would agree with that. I think it's fine. It's not the best one. It's okay. There could be way better things that they could do, but I think it's also quite hard to find a sweet spot where it's actually worthwhile to actually implement more features that might make it easier for new players, while don't wasting too much time from the developers that is actually used for other newer content for veterans, for example. You have to really find a sweet spot there. But I'm you know, it's hard for me to talk about that as a new player, what is necessary, because my new player experience lays back so long ago that I can't really remember most of it. And I'm not joking. I'm really not joking. Yeah. I'm trying to make gold by making tier 4 fractals every day. I mean, it's a good thing. Tier 4 fractals are one of the best things to actually get gold out of. Yeah. Can I PvP without getting any expansion? Yes. You will have not all the elite specs unlocked. That much you have to understand. But it will be definitely playable, and there are some core specs that you can actually play decently well as well. So yes, you can do that. Don't worry. Guild Wars 2 used to have basic understanding of most content. In other MMOs, you are mostly fine with just the latest expert knowledge. Yeah, I think Guild Wars 2, because of the horizontal progression that you have to have, or that is in the game, it feels like you have to understand a bit more to actually get to the really high levels of content and gameplay. But for most players, it's actually okay to play one expansion, have fun with it, go to the next. You will slowly learn everything. That's the cool part about Guild Wars 2. It's not like too hard to actually get into that stuff. Keep that in mind. Thanks by the one final one for the Prime. Really appreciate it. Haven't seen that and said that earlier. Really appreciate the support here. I'd like a big pop-up window that asks the new player, hey, you enjoy instance PvP? Here are fractals and strikes. You enjoy PvP? Here's PvP and World vs. World. I think that would be really amazing. That would not be that much effort, and I think it just some kind of guide, you know, some kind of maybe bind it to the Wizard's Vault. You know, why not like that? Maybe make some kind of feature like here where you have to complete as a new player some specific things and you actually get a decent amount of. Why are they running always in? What the fuck? I wasn't ready for that. Yeah, but I personally think going for making the new player experience just it doesn't have to be crazy amounts of development effort. They should just make it so that you have a guide where to go, what to do, what to try out, and yeah, that's my take on that. You know, I mean, I would have had Reflect if they just didn't run in instantly, but okay. They just don't have time for playing this safely. Weird. But which other activities can I do to make gold? What other activities can you do? Fishing is really good. I have a top 10 gold farms on my YouTube channel. Just a very small, concise video about every gold farm that is very good in my opinion. But fractals, raids, strike missions every day, Icebrood Saga strike missions, it's really good. Gives you 15 gold in 15 minutes or something. It's really, really good. But there are a lot of ways to actually make gold, but you have to understand how it works. That's the truth here. And you just have to keep consistently doing it. So every single day, do all your daily stuff that is necessary, all that kind of stuff, and you will be somewhat good, I would say. But there is no way where I can say, this is crazy, you know, that will definitely give you 200 gold an hour. That's not true. Everything is balanced around the same number. Yeah. Keep that in mind. How important is using specific builds for 100 CM? I see people that use Willbender for Platinum buff. Yeah, Willbender is a really good pick, but in general, 100 can be played actually on most classes. Of course, there are some that are better than others, but it's not like you need to play a Willbender there. I think Scrapper does decently well there as well. I think there are a lot of options how to play 100, but I feel like I sadly don't do it that often because it feels like with pucks it's horrible and I don't really like the Fractal for the most part. But I think you can play with multiple builds. You just have to keep in mind what your role is on the build. What kind of build it should be doing. The fast hitting builds are very good there. It feels like Guild Wars 2 only works due to the great people like you. It's like Scholar says, on the shoulders of giants. I mean, thanks for the kind words, but I feel like Guild Wars 2 is like, there is a really big community that is not really involved in doing anything for each other. It's just they enjoy the game and have fun with it. What is this? I don't know. They're consistently failing mechanics. I don't like that. I really doubt this is actually a group that actually knows what they are doing. I'm so sad actually that I couldn't pre-stack here. I have to be honest. It's actually crazy. Yeah, but it's true. I think you need more community content creators, and that will help Guild Wars 2 not only to get more new players in there, but it will also help just getting new players to a veteran state, which is obviously what you want to have. You want to have more veterans in the game and get the new players into the mindset of a veteran. What is going on? It's actually insane. This is one of the most scuffed fractal runs in a long while. I have to be honest. Why are 2 people dead here? Because we died to the anomaly? It's crazy. I try my best, yeah. Wilbend is optimal, but not necessarily play something you can actually play. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of people if you start out at Guild Wars 2. There might be something that's optimal. That's for fractals, that's for raids, that's for everything in the game. But it doesn't mean it's the only thing that you can play. Guys. That was close. Way too close. Yeah, but I think you should always play the thing that you can play the best and maybe swap to something that you can play as well. But never play something that you can't play just because other people say that's the most optimal choice, because then you will probably not succeed with it. What the fuck? Now everyone is almost dead. What is going on? I have to get the rest here actually. Yeah, because what the hell? What is going on? That is actually that's the true fractal experience here. Oh, I have to help this guy. Yeah, good shop. What is going on? What are they doing? Crazy. Absolutely insane. So now I can finally switch my stuff around. Actually insane. Actually insane. Can't they wait? Why can't they wait? Oh, we need a ready check. We need a ready check. Could you see? I didn't get my mist lock just because they can't wait for my pre-stack. It's actually insane. I'm losing my let's say my hope in humanity when I see these people playing here. It feels like it's really. Sometimes I don't want to play support because it feels like my DPS players are completely trolling me. I try my best, but it's really the pain. Are meta event trains still worth doing? Yes. I mean, it's not the best thing in terms of gold per hour, but if you enjoy doing meta trains, that's definitely a very worthwhile thing. You get 20 to 40 gold depending on how efficient you do them. It's actually really good per hour, yeah. So far, Conde Weber through everything has worked out so far, even when I didn't realize Kadim had. Yeah, I mean, if you can make it work, then even better. Yeah. Yeah, I made a build on Holosmith. That is true. That's a very annoying Holosmith build. I don't want to see any one of you playing that, please. Aren't you running the KP plugin for Arc? Yes, I am. Highly recommended. Yeah, I have that. I can show it on screen. They actually have decent numbers. They have actually 10k, except the last person that joined. But it feels like it's horrible, actually, I have to admit. It's actually insane. I don't know what they are doing. I feel like one of them is claiming they have internet problems, but I feel like it could also be an excuse for bad gameplay. I don't know. I try my best here, actually, but sometimes it feels just like you can't carry everyone. Yeah, I think kill proof is just a very artificial thing to actually get decent players, but I feel like it's not always working. That's what you have to keep in mind. I try my best to actually be completely open and play with everyone and have fun and help them, but sometimes I feel like this is just not looking very, I don't know, very good. Why is this person almost dead? The hardest struggle ever is to clean up after kids. You happy with that? What you have? That's true. You should be happy with what you have. Good point. Good point. I will try my best to remember that when the next fractal is happening and we will fail at, I don't know, Psyx or something. Yeah, I will remember that. No, I'm doomed. No. Nice, we did it finally. NA groups mostly seem to ask for NA title. Yeah, I mean, it's some groups on EU that do that as well, but I feel like the title doesn't say that much anymore because some people here might have the title and they just still are not really good. You didn't screenshot the build, Emily? I believe you. I believe you. No, maybe I should at this point also make a guide on YouTube so that everyone actually has the chance to play this annoying build. Maybe. Let's see. Let's see. I will not show the build today on stream. Don't worry. Yeah, the best fractal run is when we clear CMs, but then forget how to do mechanics on the easy daily and recommend it. I mean, that sounds like a thing that could happen to me, but I feel like it's what do I feel like the especially in tier 4s the mechanics are somewhat less punishing. So the problem is that I have with groups is often mechanics that I can't take over. So if I see that someone fails the anomaly, it's really hard to actually take over as a healer because I don't have enough damage to actually kill the anomaly. So stuff like that. But I would say in recommendeds and stuff, you can easily take over most mechanics if there's at least something happening. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone nowadays in the stream has the secret knowledge about the Holosmith build. It's fine. Let's just get it over with here. I didn't understand what we had to do in one of the Sanqua normal mode parts because I only did it twice. Yeah. It's actually the same for me for the not Sanqua but the other one, the Silent Surf one. I did this normal mode I think once to get the achievements and that's it. It's actually, yeah, I actually just followed the group and we actually succeeded last time we did that, but I was not really happy about it. Yeah, I can feel you. Especially when you have a different normal and challenge mode, a completely different one, then it's definitely something that I can feel. I can actually experience that way too often that I don't know about the mechanics and fractals because I always do only the challenge modes, yeah. Which is not a bad thing, you know. Normally, why would you do the normal mode? So it's okay. I just hope that the next fractal actually is like this one or like the Shattered Observatory, that you have the normal mode somewhat close to the challenge mode and you have multiple bosses, not a single strike mission like boss. That would be, I wouldn't enjoy that. I really hope it will be a good one and a really fun one as well. Not a slow one, a challenging one to some extent, but also fast paced. That's what I really hope. Skipping that is the best part of CMs. Yeah, I mean that's the best part of skipping the normal modes. But I feel like in a perfect world, the normal mode would be somewhat close, just not as punishing as the challenge mode. That would be, in my opinion, the most logical and best way to develop content. I can't yodel. I don't even know how you are able to do something like that, so I can't tell you how to do that. I wouldn't know something about that. Also trying to explain normal mode mechanics to my friend and then realizing the mechanics I'm trying to explain is only in CM. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was researching for a fractal guide a while ago And when I did that, I noticed that I actually would not be able to clearly explain the normal mode mechanics, because in challenge mode, the mechanics are different, or it's or somewhat, you know, I can tell you exactly how the challenge mode mechanic works, but in normal mode, I can't tell you if it really exists like that at all, or if it's just less punishing. Sometimes I don't know that, because I always do the challenge modes and I don't know what the difference is. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. The speculation is going on. I can see. The only thing that is clear is that I'm not a fish hater. That's never the case. I would never hate anything because of their look or something. No. That's not true. Wouldn't do that. Outline squad CC timings being reversed from normal mode to challenge mode is funny. That is true. I think something like that I really enjoy. That you can see that the developers actually have some kind of humor and actually like to mind game us in that sense, because the first time you actually try that, you will actually have a difficult time because you expect the normal mode mechanics, and they just changed it up. I like that. I actually did catch my fish already. I always do the daily fish. It's actually quite rewarding. It takes 2 minutes and might give you 1 gold back. Or 2 gold back. Yeah, it's actually quite good. In 96 normal mode, the red orbs are a joke. I actually don't know. I never do the normal mode. What are they doing? They can't even do complete distance. Okay, I will take over now. I will do that. Yeah, I don't know if that's punishing. I always do the challenge mode. I can't tell you if the red orbs in normal mode hit harder or if they're the same. I don't know. I think they might not have something that hits that hard, because then it's actually quite punishing for newer players that will play it the first time. So hopefully we don't get my predicted Psyx reset and not kill here. Let's see. Did someone clip the part when he said the thing about fishing gun? It would be so good. It's actually in my YouTube video, so you could easily clip that nowadays as well. You don't need the Twitch bot for that, yeah. But I mean, my comment there was for people that did not know. I was looking at the Orin pistol legendary, yeah, and I said this legendary looks like a fish. That was just my first thing that came to mind. And in the next sentence, I said, I don't like that. And people misinterpret that and said, oh, he doesn't like fish. But that's not the case. I don't like the Orin look, the Orin pistol look. Hopefully now it's clear. He has no regard for the fish itself. Oh no. Now it's out. Now it's out. The confirmation. Oh no. I have a question about you out of curiosity, but what is your main personal profession at the moment besides streaming? So I already told some people that, so it's not a secret or anything. I'm working as a biomedical researcher. That's what I'm doing. But I can't tell you more than that. And no, I'm not working on some kind of fish. That's not what I do. Only the guilty make excuses. Interesting take. Maybe. Seems like a lose-lose situation. Also, it's fishy that you try to explain it. I get it. It is definitely. I like the jokes are good today. I like it. I mean, if someone comes up with the emote, if someone can design that, then I would be open to add that to the collection. Don't worry. I'm happy to engage in the memes. You know, I don't want to tell you that it's not the way to go, but I'm not very creative. So if you want to create it yourself, design it yourself, then why not? You know, I'm open for that. No CC, please. I like fishing in Guild Wars 2. It's relaxing to do while listening to podcasts. Yeah, I think fishing in Guild Wars 2 is very underrated. I think it's not the most unique fishing experience in games, but I feel like it's actually quite lucrative in terms of gold that you can get, and it's very relaxing. So if you, for example, are watching a podcast, a stream, something on the second monitor, whatever, maybe Netflix, whatever, yeah, you actually have a very nice way of just relaxing, getting gold. I think that's actually what some people at least want, and that's what you can do. I like that. You can get 40 to 50 gold an hour with fishing. So it's actually one of the best ways to farm gold consistently for 24/7, because there is no limit. You can do it infinitely. So yeah, I think it's I would agree with that. It's actually a very nice way of getting gold in Guild Wars 2. Yeah. It's definitely more active than in RuneScape. I can't tell you. I have not played RuneScape, so I can't tell you how that is. But I think it's okay. It's not the most engaging activity ever, especially if you compare to the normal combat in Guild Wars 2. But it's definitely fun. I do it every day for a bit to get the daily. So yes, that I guess. But you could also say someone that is fishing a lot is a fish hater. So I guess maybe that's because maybe that's the reason then. I guess. Yeah. Being able to farm all the ambergris for Gen 3 myself is nice. That's true. I feel like stuff that you can farm yourself with just putting a little bit effort in is actually, I really liked it. I think that's a good part about legendaries. I think that's one of the worst parts about the tier 6 materials, because it's always like, yeah, typically you don't farm them. You farm the gold and buy them from other players. But it's not really typically that you farm them yourself. But the feeling of farming stuff yourself with the ambergris, maybe even with the runestones, that is really cool. I liked it a lot. I would agree with that one. I actually never went fishing in real life. I have to be honest. It's not a thing to do for me. It would be way too boring for me. I like to do stuff that is engaging. I don't want stuff that is actually sitting there and waiting for stuff to happen. I don't say people shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it's not for me. Yeah, that's my whole process here. Yeah. RuneScape, you just click and AFK. I mean, that can be for some people as well. It's probably not for me though. Yeah. Farming myself is tax evasion, yeah, and then it has to be good, you know. That's how it is. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Correct. Now I picture an adventurer going on epic journeys through the hardest fights to get a legendary weapon, and then there's you chilling with a fish rod, and you get the legendary weapon out of the water. Yeah, exactly. That's how you do it. Can you jump the orbs? To some extent, yes. Not all of. It's a little bit buggy and weird. Yeah, you can jump the shockwave. That's the important part. I work also in research and development and hope that my wife gets rich by accident. And then you can become a streamer. I mean, that sounds like a good plan, you know? Very good, very good. Yeah. As a kid, I got a panic attack from a big fish being alive when I caught it, so I started hating fish then. I mean, that's a good reason to hate fish, I guess, yeah? I mean, fish are not, I wouldn't say, the most likable creatures. I think if you would have pets, it's probably more likely that you have, for example, some kind of dogs, cats, or something like that, because they are a little bit more, you can engage more with them. But I mean, I don't hate fish. That's contrary to most people's beliefs here in chat. I would not say that's the case. What other games do you have in mind in terms of cooler fishing mechanics? I'm curious because I'm talking of inspiration of other games. I think actually Final Fantasy has a quite nice fishing thing. I think Final Fantasy is actually decent with the fishing. But other than that, I didn't have that many games that in mind, to be honest. If there's someone in the chat who can design emotes, we need fish hater, fish research, and tax evasion ones. Yeah, that's true. I'm absolutely up for that. Yeah. Yeah, good point pointing that out. Snowdrop. Yeah, it's definitely true. It would be amazing emotes. Yeah. I think the thing is, what I enjoy about streaming is, final one, is that I engage with you while doing stuff that I normally would do. Maybe sometimes even I wouldn't do it myself. For example, I don't do practice every day when I don't stream, and I just have fun doing them on stream because it's a stuff that I can do while talking to you. That's what I like. I wouldn't do practice every single day, especially when Siren's Reef and stuff is daily, but doing it on stream makes it very interesting because I can just talk to you while doing stuff that I would do maybe anyways. So it's really fun. I liked it a lot. And especially if you have so funny conversations about fish and stuff, then, I mean, what better is there to do, you know? I tried to introduce Guild Wars 2 to my wife. She had trouble walking around, so this will take a while, I guess. Yeah, I tried that as well for my girlfriend. But the problem is, if you are not a gamer by heart, or you don't understand how it, let's say, a lot of walking and stuff works, if it takes half an hour to understand the walking, or an hour, then it will be a long, long road to go to actually understand Guild Wars 2 to a level that you can play it with a veteran. That's just, I often have the feeling if I introduce Guild Wars 2 to my friends, it takes so long to actually get them to a level where I say, okay, I can now play with them without actually needing to teach them something, that I at this point actually don't want to engage new players in the game that are not really particularly interested in the game already, because it's actually quite hard to actually reach a level where you can play with those people and have to handhold them for quite a while. Yeah. Moving camera and character at the same time can be hard for people who haven't really played games much. Yeah, exactly. It's not something that you would see a lot of people do all the time, especially, you know, I'm normally a quite relaxed type of person, but when it comes to games, I always want to move, you know? So if you see me jumping, moving around and stuff, that's second nature to me in games. But if you give that to someone that never played an MMO before or something like this 3D environment, it's actually quite different. It's not something that you would get all the time. So I can see that, yeah. Yeah, the dead shots, I see that final one. I see the dead shots, yeah. It's good. I don't mind it. Maybe you can do it in my chat as well, if it fits. My mom got drunk and asked me to teach her how to play Stray on PS5. The camera movement was a struggle, especially if you're drunk, I guess. Yeah, sounds like a fun activity. Guild Wars 2 is a high skill game, confirmed. I think Guild Wars 2, to master it is definitely very high skill, but to actually get into it, I think it depends a bit on what your goal is. If you just want to have fun in the open world, I think it's not that hard. But if you want to get into PvP or even raids and stuff, I think the barrier to entry is a little bit higher than you would expect from a classical MMO. Yeah, at least in my opinion. Which doesn't have to be a bad thing, because some people like the challenge, but most people would have a slow learning curve for the most part. Guild Wars 2 I would say doesn't have that typically. Yeah, exactly. The skill floor of Guild Wars 2 is actually quite high, which is not necessarily a good thing. You want to have a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling. That's the optimal thing. The distance between those two should be maximum. It should be really high, because then you have a very small barrier to entry while having crazy good end game grinding for min-maxing and just getting better at the game. That's what I think about games. Not only about MMOs, I think every game should have that. Yeah. She is so used to a finger pack on her laptop that she can't move a mouse smoothly. But maybe action can help. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a different type of person then. It's just like us PC gamers, we know how to move the mouse and the keyboard and how to do all that stuff. But if you don't do that regularly, then it's actually, you might not be meant to be a PC gamer then, I guess. It's fine, not everyone has to play every single game. Yeah. For open world, the game is definitely super accessible. I would say so, yeah. I think in open world, it doesn't matter if you know what all your skills do and you can use all of them. You can even skill click and actually complete all the meta events. It's not like it's absolutely necessary to play like full tryhard and know all the rotations in open world. Not at all. There are so many people around you that don't know anything about the game either, and you will just complete with them. You know, that's how it goes. Definitely. I logged into my old character that had 11 different stat combinations equipped and did 1k DPS, and I still beat hero point challenges. Yeah, exactly. The open world, especially in the beginning of Guild Wars 2, is actually very easy. Yeah, but it's not really hard since most events barely scale up after a while and you just press 1 and win everything. Yeah, that's the interesting part about Guild Wars 2 open world. I think it doesn't train you at all for anything that comes after the open world. So the open world is somewhat easy, and everything else in the open world, after the open world is done, is actually not as easy anymore, and that's a problem. Can I do it? Can they help me? No. Then someone else has to do it, I guess. Hello, guys. Open world is just semi-AFK, listen to podcast material. Yeah, I think for me it's the same. If I play open world, I play open world and do something else on screen or on the second monitor. It's very uncommon that I play open world fully concentrated and don't do anything else. But some people are challenged by the open world anyway, so that takes forever. Oh no. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to judge anyone. If they enjoy open world, they should go for it. And if it's hard for them, then yeah. Yeah, I was thinking why low intensity builds, and then I saw my loving wife try to jump a box. Yeah, I can feel that. You know, it's like sometimes it's not easy for us to understand how other people feel. That's completely normal. So sometimes you just have to say, okay, if the other person says it's hard for them, accept that, and maybe we have to think about the stuff a little bit differently. Pull them together, very nice. CM boss versus shut underground fractal button. Exactly. It's sometimes the mechanics in normal modes are just too hard for the average player, you know? That's just how it goes. Yeah, I should actually, I never trust it. Just go for full continuous split with mass invisibility. I should have gone for that, yeah. But I always think this is so easy. You don't even need stealth for that. It's actually so easy. But apparently it's not. So yeah, should have done that. Now it's too late. It's always like, especially in pucks, I think the best mindset is to say, nah, don't trust the pucks. It will probably fail. So better make sure that you actually succeed and go for the safest thing possible, which would be for the most part probably doing it yourself or stealthing them and making sure that they don't die, I guess. But it doesn't work anyway. Sometimes they just reveal themselves. Imagine epoch meta if we convinced all the players to play auto attack hammer DH. Oh my god, we would be so fast and so safe. That would actually be insane. Where's my bomb actually? I thought I had a bomb. Where did it go? Yeah, I think epoch meta is one of the... They nerfed it a bit, but I still don't like it that much. I played it when it came out a while, but I'm happy that I don't have to farm it again. I think it's one of the worst designed metas in the game. I'm not a big fan of it. It's too annoying, and it's really boring as well. I think it's not my favorite one for sure. But I don't like the Soto metas for most of them actually. I'm not the biggest fan of Soto metas. I would really like to have some Heart of Thorns metas or even End of Dragons metas back. That much is for sure. I feel like the meta events, I hope that with the next expansion, maybe with the next map we get a meta event, we don't know. But I personally think that would be amazing if there could be some cool, good meta events back. I feel like that's really missing in the newest things for sure. The maps are a little bit like you do it a little bit for the legendary and then it's done. It feels like it's not as, so to say, replayable as I play Heart of Thorns map more than the Chantia Wilds and Soto maps nowadays. Yeah. I liked Soto metas the first few times around, but now I don't even want to go back to finish masteries. Yeah, exactly. I think the first few times it's okay, but as soon as you have to grind them for, I don't know, I have to do it for 90 times or something for all the stuff that we needed to get for the Obsidian Legendary Armor. It was horrible, you know, it was really bad. So I feel you. Like open world Decima Greer, but they don't feel like that rewarding. Yeah, I think that it's okay to make world bosses only, but I feel like meta events are just a step up. It's a little bit more engaging. I like it a little bit better. I did Soto X-Peng 2 weekends ago and it's yapping. And the yapping was putting me to sleep. Yeah, I can feel you. But Chantia Wilds has the same thing, you know, the bears talking. It's one of the worst experiences if you want to do something fast-paced. It's not gonna happen, you know, the bears take forever to finish the storyline. There's a story mission that takes over half an hour just talking. There's nothing happening in there. It's horrible for a gameplay player. If you enjoy the story, don't worry. It's actually decent then. But I personally, I just want to have gameplay. Yeah, I know. You can actually do something to actually make the closing doors not really work. I know. Just at this point, you know, I'm streaming and talking to you. I don't want to perfectly concentrate on this fractal because I have to be honest, it might not work anyway with this group, so just accept it and get it done, get it over with. And we did it anyway. I like the convergences though. I think the convergences are good. I personally would agree. I think the convergences are fun and repeatable content. I think I did the first convergence nowadays over 200 times or something. So yes, I would agree with that. Yeah. Bonk. Yeah. I like the bears talking Wayfinder. You need honey. Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I don't dislike the bears, but I'm in for the Guild Wars 2 combat and not for some NPC talking there. Even if the NPC is likable, I don't want to listen to the NPC talking for half an hour and I can't do anything. I want to do something that is actually fun and engaging. That's my take on that. Yeah. But in Chantia, at least I could access the next map. In Soto, I had to do the expansion to unlock the maps. True. I used the tonic to turn into lowland Codan and spam Wayfinder at world bosses. Interesting. Good meme. I like it. So what do we do next? We do some Iceblood Saga Strike missions, I guess. So whoever wants to join, just join. We have Iceblood Saga Strike missions coming up. I'm on EU, so sorry for the NN players. Snowdrop is here. Nice, very good. So I guess we have a heal scrapper then, I guess. Let me manage the squad and I will catch up in chat. 8 DPS, okay. Okay, we have a DPS, I guess. Then we need both for this second subgroup, I guess. Okay. Nice. No problem. Boon heal. Very good. We have a boon heal. So we need only a boon DPS. That's good, very good. Do you have a guild? If yes, you can just write me in game. You can write me. We have a community guild, yes, and you can also just let me know your account name in the chat right now, and I can invite you. So no worries. There is always space for someone like you. DPS, very good. Very nice. Then I will invite you. So Joel goes. And I go quick heal, I guess. Very good. And now we can look for DPS players. That was quite smooth. Huh? Because I'm currently redoing Soto to grant access to the metas on my alt characters. If there's a way to get to Niles while skipping the story, that would be huge. Yeah, I personally, what I do all the time is using some kind of teleport to friend or the recharging one. And I just look for players that are currently in the map. So if I look at Secrets of the Obscure in a Niles, and then I teleport to them, and I can do that with another character, and you will be fine. You will skip the story, so to say. So you can do that. I skipped ahead to Chante for Spear and Warclaw, had it on mute so I wouldn't get spoiled and listen to a podcast. I kept looking back up and thinking, there's no way they're still talking. Yeah, exactly. They talk forever. This is one of the worst parts about the story, is that it takes forever. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's crazy. So if you are into gameplay, it takes forever. And you have to do it once to actually get to the maps. So you have to actually get that. Yeah. Dear squad, I hope this match finds you well, DPS. Yeah. Let's see what we can do. So I guess no one else is doing the run, or not that many people, so I will do it. If you don't throw yourself into the puddles, you are excused. Let's see how many people are dying here in the Bone Skinner. Of course, I tried to heal, so that might be working then. But we have, I think, a decent squad composition. We have enough CC, hopefully, if I can remember to bring more on the Bone Skinner as well. Because don't forget, you know, the Bone Skinner, that's one of the most important part about the Bone Skinner is the Bone Skinner. If the break bar appears, that doesn't mean you have to use a special action key. If the break bar appears, that means that you have to use CC. Yes, the special action key actually provides CC, but you can use, before you use that, you can use CC as well. So keep that in mind. We will see if we can get that to work in our group here. Oh, come, let me move. Nice, I did it. Which kind of gear would you buy on a Reaper to do most content? Gear choices are a bit overwhelming right now. So if you like to play PvE mostly, then I would go for... If you like to play Power Reaper, then I would probably go with full Berserker gear. If you are planning on playing other content as well, then there might be... Trailblazer might be a better option, because in PvP, or World vs. World rather, it's actually the better option. But I would say Condi Reaper is a bit better. I don't know, both of them are fine. I would go for full Berserker. That's the short answer. Yeah, Berserker, you can never go wrong. It's always working on every single class, and it's the same for Reaper. Yeah. One time I started an Iceblue Saga 5 squad, and someone got mad that we started Shiver Pass for some reason. That's interesting. I mean, I just started because I did not know if everyone was ready already. So I just wanted to make sure that we actually have some time before we can start with the actual fighting. But apparently everyone was there already. So we could have started with Bone Skinner as well. But I feel like Bone Skinner, if I'm the healer, will be probably not the biggest problem, I hope. So we can just start with whatever. typically you just start with Bone Skinner if you are unsure if your party will be able to clear it. Yeah. Welcome, Jax. Welcome, welcome. Yes, I will check my Discord later, don't worry. But why would I use CC when this special action key exists, Mr. Streamer? Yeah, that's the weird part. I don't get it, because the problem is you can use the special action key after you use your CC. If you do that, then you will guarantee the CC break buff for sure. But people always think, you know, it's like the open world people is like, the blue break bar means we have to use the special action key. It's so weird, because people should actually think about what the blue break bar means, and it doesn't mean you have to use the special action key. It means you actually have to use your brain and use CC skills. If you want to solo champions, legendaries, or just be invincible, Celestial Reaper is quite good. No, I think actually I have a lot of builds, and I think I would not recommend Celestial. I would actually go either Berserker or I would go Viper. I have 2 solo builds. Whoa. I have 2 solo builds. Sorry, we already had the thing. We have 2 solo builds on my YouTube channel for Reaper, and both of them are really, really good. And I would say Celestial is not the best option. Yeah, I would really, it works of course very well, but the best option in my opinion is either go full power or go full condi. Don't go Celestial. I think Reaper is not really necessary to do so. Yeah. Welcome, Alka. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Let's see. I mean, this boss is, I think I do them every single day, but this boss is also so weird. Now we get the break bar and the special action key, and I don't use it because I want my allies to use it that have actually nice DPS. But I feel like this is such a, this fight, even though I do it every day, I think this is actually not a very good designed boss. I think it's really annoying how many phases and just unnecessary invuln phases it has. It's just very, very bad for that matter. I'm not the biggest fan. Yeah, I think the only build that works on Celestial in every single game mode, in World vs. World, in PvE, in solo content, but also in group content, is Firebrand is really good. But I think that's about it, I would say. What else could work? I mean, there of course other builds work as well, but Firebrand is actually really, really good. It's really, really good. Yeah. Yeah, I think Scourge is better on Celestial stats than Reaper. I think Reaper doesn't have enough boons to actually be very crazy in terms of how much value you get from Celestial. I think a Conduit Reaper is either very good with Trailblazer or Viper, or if you want to play a Power Reaper, you would go either with Berserker or put some, if you really want some boon duration, you would put maybe some Commander's Gear or something like that in. But it's not, I think Berserker should be fine for the most part. Yeah. Celestials for roaming World vs. World builds. The problem is Celestial in World vs. World got nerfed. So in Celestial, typically you get every single gear stat in PvE. But in World vs. World, they cut off the expertise and concentration. So you don't get your boon duration and your condi duration anymore. And so I would say there are a few builds that work very well with Celestial still in World vs. World, but not all of them. So you have to think about it twice before using it. Before the nerf, it was actually like every single class would use Celestial and it was absolutely broken. Now it's not. And where can I find Simmer's Discord? It's in my Twitch chat description or in the YouTube chat description. Just scroll down a bit and you'll find it there. So I hope everyone is there. So if you can hear me, we can stay in the middle after this, of course. Bone Skinner, 99.999999% of people have never done the main mechanic. Yeah, I think that's one of the most interesting achievements in Guild Wars 2 is the Bone Skinner. Because the Bone Skinner, I think something with light the torches or something like that. That's one of the most interesting achievements, because to get that one, you actually have a dedicated group that needs to do the mechanics, because otherwise it doesn't work. Which is really interesting to me, because that's just not very common to do nowadays anymore. It was even at the beginning of the game, it was also, when Bone Skimmer came out, it was also not that common because it was just straight up the best option always to actually go for ignoring everything and doing Bone Skinner like the way we do it now. Yeah, I don't know. Hub is still sick in full Celestial. Yeah, that's one of the exceptions. It's still absolutely broken. Yep, that's correct. What even is the main mechanic other than the move? The main mechanic is that you get some damage passively if you don't light the torches because you get, I don't know, hit by the dark or something. So that means that you actually have to, we will see that in a second, but oops, no. We actually have to light the torches back up when the Bone Skinner clears them or makes them dark again, go dark. So we just ignore this, but normally you would light them up to actually decrease the damage that you take every second. But if you ignore it with the healers, because you just heal through the damage that you take, then it doesn't matter. Yeah. Celestial best for Elementalist and Guardian. Yeah, I think Celestial is just a very, very broken gear stat in PvE. I think every class can use that. But for World versus World, I think it's more like specific builds can use it. I think Harbinger is really good in World vs. World, Elementalist is really good in World vs. World with it, and to some extent Guardian as well. Yeah. Wayfinder, light the torches. Yes. Exactly. I mean, I think it's a really cool achievement. I think those are the cool achievements that force you to do the mechanic to actually get the achievement. I think that's really fun, but I might also want to tune down my graphics settings again. I just noticed. It's not the best to do your flashbanging. Sorry for the LOD effects on. I was wondering why sometimes my frames dropped so much. Ah, now I get it. I mean, we have Snowdrop in the group, so we have crazy good DPS. Are you playing Unload? Yeah, you're playing Unload. I like it. I like it. Show them how good this build is. I still need to get Slippery Slapling. I think that's also a very fun achievement. It's a little bit, it's also a bit annoying. Don't get me wrong, but I think the design to have something like that, it's quite funny. It's like, it shows that they actually have some kind of humor as well, the developers. Yeah. Hot potato, exactly. Yeah. I think I wouldn't redo it every single week. I think that's not achievements that I would do every time. But I personally think it's definitely one of the more unique ones. It's not something you just ignore a mechanic. No, you have to do something new now. I think that's okay. Is this guy DCing or why can't we rest him? Okay. Sorry, I tried. We tried. I don't know what's happened. But you might rally actually at the 25 mark if you stay there. Because we have a Scourge that actually prevents you from downstating. Oh no, never mind. Never mind, you died. We try our best to still do it. Should be still very, very easy to do, don't worry. Sometimes it's buggy with the downstate here. I mean, this encounter is the most buggy encounter in the whole game, I would say. It's actually insane. I think it's okay that they don't go back and fix every single bug, but I feel like this encounter is so buggy, they should definitely fix some of the stuff. Maybe they don't know how to. Maybe that's the reason, actually. But this is absolutely insane how buggy this guy is. I think I do it every single day, the Iceblood Saga strike missions, I would say. And now it's bugged again, you know, it doesn't move and doesn't do attacks anymore. It's so weird, you know, it's so weird. I think in at least 50% of the cases there's some bug happening here. It's actually crazy. I mean, it's okay, you know, you can still clear it, especially if you know how to avoid the really scary invisible one. But other than that, I don't like it that much. I think bosses that are crazy in the terms of the bugs make them feel even worse than they would normally feel. So now let's get to Bone Skinner. Thanks for the follows, by the way. Vista still has 3 completely game-breaking bugs. Yeah, but I think you can if you know how to avoid them, it's actually quite consistent. Then those bugs will not happen, I would say. But the one that this guy just doesn't respawn anymore and you just can't kill him, that's horrible. But I think you can deny it if you don't get the CC at 25%. But yeah, I totally agree. I think the game-breaking bugs, they should actually fix. Sure. It's dark. Yeah, I mean, it is. So let's see. I really want to see the CC, guys. Really, that's the important part here. I want to see the CC, full CC, and no one dying to the hands, please. And you can see the torches here are lit now at the end of at the edge of the stream, and those would be the ones that you would have normally to actually light up. Yeah, we did it. Almost not, but we did it. Very good. You can see Chronomancer CC is so good. It's really, really good. And sidestep. No one died. We are happy here. Give some block to my guys. No, I don't have any block anymore. Sorry. You see, even in this fight, I don't take anything over the dagger because I think the dagger is just the best option for most cases. I really like Chronomancer right now as a healer. It's so versatile. I really think it should be played by almost anyone. If you want to play a healer, go for Chronomancer. If you at least enjoy somewhat the playstyle of a Mesmer. That, of course, is the important starting thing. Very nice. We did it very cleanly. I like it. And I wasn't even last in DPS. Very good. I have some crazy cook coming up. Someone on my YouTube channel always wanted to get the Alacrity Heal Willbender. And not a specific Alacrity Heal Willbender, but they wanted to get a specific low intensity Heal Willbender. Yeah. So that's what I came up with, and it will come out next week. And I was surprised how easy this build is. It's actually insane. You press a few buttons, you have 5 boons up all the time or something. And you actually, that's the craziest part here, if you play full Harrier as a typical healer, you actually get a damage number that is actually around 7k or something. It's actually insane. You play full Harrier, and because you're spamming auto attacks for the most part, you actually get crazy damage numbers as well as a healer. It's actually really funny. So this is a really, really cool build that I come up with. I'm really happy to actually release a video about that too in the next few days. It's really cool. How is Heal Warrior doing? Is he useful and worth gearing in the future? I think you can play a Heal Berserker, you can even play a Heal Core Warrior or some kind of Blade Zone. That works, all of that works. But, and that's the sad part, it's just inferior, by far. You know, there is, I would say, no real reason to take a Heal Warrior ever. It's just, there is no real reason. Every other healer on every other class is just, I would say, better. Maybe Revenant is not. But I would say, don't play Heal Warrior, sadly. I really hope with the next balance patch they address that and we get some reason to actually play that. And maybe even make it just very, very strong. But right now, there is no reason. Just straight up, don't do it, I would say. If you are Warrior enjoyer and only play Warrior, then maybe. But personally, I would say it's still not enough. Yeah. Is Spellbreaker viable with daggers? It is actually really good right now with one dagger, with a main hand dagger. So that offhand dagger is very, very bad. I already mentioned that at the beginning of the stream. I think one of the worst weapons on Warrior is offhand dagger. It's really bad. It doesn't really suit any purpose for that matter. So if you want to play dagger, that's not very good. But if you play dagger main hand, it's actually one of the meta builds right now. It's really good. it reaches, I think, 44k or something on the benchmark. It's really good. So arms, Spellbreaker. Of course, it's power and melee, so it will not always work in every fight. But if you can make it work because you don't have to move a lot or you can stay in melee range all the time, it's really, really good. It's really underrated. Also has great CC in the kit. Yeah, so I like the build. Yeah, maybe I'll play it somewhat soon in the Fractals as well and showcase it a bit. I want to believe in the Willmender. Yeah, it's really underrated. I think Heal Willbender is with the latest patches. I think it's actually a very decent pick. I really have to say so. I think it's one of the most surprising picks for me as a content creator to actually make a low intensity Willbender build that actually works as a healer. It's actually, you know, for me, healers are like the most, you know, you have to know the most about the game to actually be a decent healer, you know. So the concept of a low intensity healer is to me something that is a little bit contradictive, because as a healer, you don't always want to actually have a specific rotation, but you should at least be able to react to chaotic situations with pressing a lot of your buttons. So if you want a low intensity build, you say, no, I want to press a low amount of buttons, but still be able to fill the role of someone that reacts to chaotic situations. And actually, the low intensity heal Willbender actually does exactly that. You just have 2-3 buttons that you need to press, and those will be enough to actually keep your group alive while having all the boons that you actually provide as a healer. It's actually really surprising. Yeah. I feel so hardcore in love with the Spellbreaker. That successful full counter is just awesome. Yeah, if you play full counter Spellbreaker correctly, you have crazy amount of defenses in the kit, and I would say that it's a really underrated power build right now. Yeah, that much is for sure. From Unload Deadeye to Rival Mech, I'm a real gamer. Yes, you show really off, you know, how many crazy hard builds you actually play. 2 Fire. Thanks. But it's 4. The subscript management, I'm sorry. Always forget to write it when I'm the commander here, but it's so funny if I see 2 and 4 as the sub squads. Yeah. I think Rival Mechamist, to be honest, is harder to play than the Unload Deadeye. I'm not joking. I think Unload Deadeye is easier. That much is pretty objectively true. But I feel like it's also way more DPS. So I would probably, if you want to at least have some amount of brain cells active while you play the DPS build, then I would always go for Rival Mechanist. I think it's way more, I don't know, rewarding what you get from it. Am I weird for picking power DPS Chrono instead of Virtuoso? Yes, that's very weird. I'm not saying I don't judge. I don't say it's impossible to do that. But I think power Chronomancer is one of the worst. It's probably the worst power DPS because it has one of the worst bursts for power DPS. So typically power DPSs have crazy good burst. Yeah. But power Chronomancer is like a Conny build with power stats because your ramp up time is quite slow. And so the reason why you take a power build is typically because of the low ramp up time. And you still take a power build that has a low ramp up time. So it's like, okay, why are you taking it? There is no real reason. But if you enjoy it, go for it. It has nice damage numbers, so it's not that bad. Just saying, it might not be the best option for if you want to really get high, especially in Fractals. Don't play that in Fractals because the fights are too short to actually deal damage. Yeah. Oh no, we lost someone. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not sure if this guy will get the rewards then. I wish there will be a lag or a quickness Spellbreaker in the future. I think that is the... We lost another one? What? Did I miss something? So, I think the biggest misconception they had is to give Berserker quickness, whereas Berserker, in my opinion, should have been the boonless spec, so to say. I think the Bladestone can have Alacrity, but I think Spellbreaker should have some kind of offensive boon like Alacrity or Quickness on this as well. Because now it feels like it's only a DPS spec, whereas the full counter feels like way more tanky and supportive in PvE. So yeah, I'm not sure. But I think they will not change that. I think Berserker will have quickness and Spellbreaker will have nothing, to be honest. I think they might fear that in competitive modes that will be absolutely broken. So they might already start with a split there, and that might also be not that smart. So yeah, I'm not sure if they will ever change that, to be honest. The game crashed. Yeah, I'm sorry. Hopefully you get rewards, because sometimes Dragonstorm is a little bit weird with the rewards. If you're not in there in the first minute, then you might not get rewards. So let's see. Hopefully you get it, but could happen that it doesn't. So too bad then. Sorry. Bad luck. Yeah, I'm sorry, Snowdrop, for that really confusing 2 and 4 subroutes setup. Yeah, maybe you should punish me and kick me. Oh no, it's not possible. I'm the commander. I'm sorry. It's just funny, 2 and 4. I don't like the number 3, apparently. Subconsciously, at least. What happens, actually? I never got this attack through. Are there any other boonless specs that you wish had quickness alacrity? Actually, I don't. I think all the boonless specs have a reason to exist like that. Because I feel like you don't need all the specs to have access to all boons. I think that would be... I think I'm already of the opinion that there are too many specs that are just forced into some kind of specific build niche. So for example, I don't really like to have Virtuoso having power and Condi. I think it should have been designed in a way that it's only power. And Mirage is the Condi spec and Chronomancer the support spec. I think it, to be honest, that's how it should have been. And the same is true for a lot of other stuff in the game. I think they should not have gone for giving every class quickness and alacrity. I think it makes sense in a balancing scenario, but I personally think it makes every class a little bit more like... It's just a different taste of the same thing, you know? Like a quickness, or let's say alacrity Willbender, feels almost exactly the same like if you play Alacrity Chronomancer, you know? It's just blue instead of pink. You know, there is not crazy amount of difference in terms of what it actually provides and stuff. But I feel like if there would be more class identity, it would be more interesting. But I can see why they did it the way. So I personally think it's okay that Holosmith, Dragon Hunter, Daredevil, Reaper, those specs don't have any boons. I think that's okay. Or at least not quickness or alacrity. So I personally think it's okay how they actually judged it. Yeah. That's their philosophy, right? You can play what you want with every class. Yeah, it's their philosophy. It's their game. They can do it. But I personally think it's not the best thing. Yeah. I personally think the fantasy of a class should be above everything else. So if you have a Mesmer, the Mesmer, for example, the Mesmer Elite Spec Chronomancer is the support spec. In my opinion, they should not force a DPS option in there just to say every class can be played as a DPS. I think you should have a build or a fantasy that is just supportive by nature. That's my take. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like I can understand why they did it the way they did. Yeah. It's just my take on the matter. And no one will listen to me here, but of course I can tell them why I actually feel like that. But of course, it's always like the game developers have their own vision of how the game they want to have it in the future, whatever, yeah. And I just play it, and if it's fun to me, I continue playing it. And if it's not fun at all, then I might stop playing it. That's how the business works. And I don't want to judge them for having a specific vision, because maybe in their eyes it's actually smart to have it like that. Yeah, and I also think it's okay, especially for new players. I can see why they do it like that, because for new players it's way easier to actually understand, okay, my Scourge can give Alacrity, my Harbinger can give Quickness, and my Reaper is my DPS go-to build. So everything in one spec. It would be way harder to understand, oh, this build can only give me this buff, whereas another class gives me this and that. So with the old Spotter, with the banners and stuff, that is way harder to understand for a new player than if you just have everything homogenized. Yeah, hope that makes sense. The philosophy was also to not have Trinity, and that got thrown out in the first expansion. That is true. I mean, they very often, or not very often, but at least somewhat frequently change their philosophy in that way, which is, I don't want to judge them on that either, because I personally think it's good if you are, so to say, adjusting your stuff. It's okay, in my opinion, if you can say, okay, we were wrong on that, we want to change it, because that is not something that is we actually think is good anymore. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. You should adjust your opinion. But I think if you say at the beginning of the game, our game is casual friendly, we don't want to have Trinity, we don't want to have that, and then a few years later they say, oh no, now we change it. I think that might be a little bit drastical. But yeah, that's after all their game, so what can I tell them? Yeah. What about the opposite then? Any spec that you drop off their shiny boons? Okay, about the opposite. That I would definitely say. I would say Mirage should lose alacrity. I personally think that's not necessary. I think Mirage should be in a DPS spec only. I think Chronomancer can fill both roles. That's perfectly fine. I also think that Berserker, like I said, should lose quickness. I think Berserker should lose quickness and Spellbreaker should maybe get quickness instead. And you should lose the DPS Spellbreaker variant. I think that is more suited to a Berserker playstyle, personally. What else? What else? I think the heavy armor classes are okay. But no, I think most of them are fine. I think Mirage is the biggest outstanding thing that I would say is not very good. Where I would say, okay, this is not what I like. But it's my take, you know. The developers and support from Guild Wars 2 is super nice. Final Fantasy, for example, sucks so hard the game just lives because of the Sims. They basically repeat the same thing for years. Really, I don't know. I have any opinion on that. I can't tell you how that actually turns out to be, how that is. But I can understand why people would like the Guild Wars 2. I think the support is really good. I encountered them in my career, or let's say playing Guild Wars 2, I talked to them maybe 2 or 3 times, and they always responded really fast and friendly, so I liked it. But of course, I don't have that big of a sample size. I can't tell you this will always be the case. Yeah. It also happens when you have no actual direction, since you switch out the game director every few years. Yeah, definitely. It's a big problem if you have no leadership. And I think it's not only about the leadership changing all the time, but it's also about that you don't have a, so to say, I don't know, how can I say that? The community manager is missing, or is not, the role doesn't exist in terms of their thing, which is, in my opinion, also a big problem. I think you should always talk to the community, talk to them, how they see that thing, what is actually going on, and always talk to people about it. And I think that's missing quite a bit, that you don't have anyone interacting between the CEO of ArenaNet, so to say, and some kind of community manager, and we talk about stuff and have some nice of transfer of information and actually talk to people. I think a lot of other really big games actually have that. Some very frequent dev live streams, very frequent just talking to really try-hard community figures and stuff. That's more what I would imagine helps to actually find out what actually the community wants, and maybe adjust your very clear direction that you want to go with the game as a developer, maybe adjust it a bit to the community's needs. That's my take. Isn't Mesmer Mirage made for like assassin class on Mesmer, because all the mobility and leaps kind of like Daredevil on Thief? Exactly, Unlucky. That's exactly how it feels. But the problem is you have alacrity on there, and they always have to keep in mind you can play it as an alacrity support. And that feels like very forced in there, and makes it very hard to balance, because you can easily switch the straight and then you can give alacrity, but it's also very, you always have to use the staff to actually make that work, and it's really weird. It's in my opinion, that should not be the case. It's very specific. I think that's what I don't like about the Mirage alacrity design, because all other classes typically can play every single weapon. So you can play a Quickness Herald with a mace. You can play a Quickness Herald with a greatsword if you wanted to. But on Mirage, you have to play staff. It's so weird. It's really weird. What do you do with your Eternal Ice Shards? I mean, what do I do with them? I just save them. This is only my first character. I have another character full of those. I don't know what to do with them. I just saved them, you know? Look at this. Yeah, I just saved them. What else is there to do in the game? Just keep collecting stuff. You can buy... typically, I would say buy tier 6 materials for it. You know? Exchange them for volatile magic. That's what I would do. And get tier 6 materials with that if you wanted to get gold. But I don't care. I have a lot of gold. I can easily convert them. But why would I do it? You know, I just saved them at this point. It's the same. I have... Where is this character? Let me... I also have a character where I just throw random chunk on there that I saved over the years. I think it's this one. And I have a lot of the 8-rate ingots as well. So this is actually a little bit more insane than the other one. This is actually quite crazy. I think I'm top 20 on the 8-rate ingots on efficiency. Because I never use them. I use them when I use them. I only use them for crafting 32 slot bags, but I saved them. So it's now almost time to craft a bit more because I almost have this inventory full again. But I just play the game for fun. I don't have any goals, so I just keep everything. That's why I have so many characters. I just keep everything. Yeah, that's what I do. Thanks, by the way, for all the follows. Really appreciate it. Didn't see that earlier. Thanks a lot. So you can buy amulets in, I think it's in Piora Marches. You can buy, for the Eternal Ice Shards, you can buy the Ascended Amulets and you can then salvage them. And if you have luck, you get the, how is it called? Salvaged Brilliance or something like that. Salvaged. One of those. This one, it is 500 gold. So if you purchase a lot of amulets and you salvage all of them, which you have to take into account, this costs 1 gold per salvage as well if you buy them, then you will, if you're lucky, you will get this drop and you can sell it. It can happen. It's not completely, let's say, at 0%. It's like probably around, I don't know, 1% or something. It can happen, but it takes a while to actually pay off. So it's a gamble, yeah. If you don't know what to do with them, then feel free to donate it to me. I need tier 6 mats. Yeah, I mean, at some point I might do some giveaways that do that. But I feel like I like to collect stuff, and if I would give all of it away, then maybe it's a little bit boring. But maybe I can do it. Let's see. Maybe what we can do that. We reach some kind of follower goal in the future quite soon on Twitch as well. So I will do a big giveaway there as well, just as I did on YouTube, and there we will do definitely a really nice giveaway there as well. So maybe some tier 6 materials for you, final one. Yeah. If you did get that as a drop, I'd use it, because then you have the lifetime of free ascended salvage kits and fractal mass resist. That's true. Where is it? I can show it to you. You can get the achievement that gives you the, how is it called? Fractal reliquary or something. And this is actually really good. You check it, yeah, a fractal reliquary. You get it, you check it every single day, and you can buy 1 item per day for 25 of those fractal relics. And those, like today, are not that good. There's nothing in there that is actually worth getting, but, or for me at least, but in every, let's say every 10th day or something, there is something really good in there. So there can be a full 20 stack ascended salvage kit, which is 20 gold worth, for 25 of those. It's actually insane. So it's really, really good. And you save a lot of your fractal relics and stuff for that as well. What I also buy are those simple infusions, even though I don't use them. I just buy them every day when they show up, because you can trade them. Actually, you take, for 25 of those fractal relics, you actually purchase them each. And then you go to this one fractal vendor here. I think it's this one. Yeah, and then you can actually get more back. You get, I think, 75 back. So you triple your fractal relics. So I go and say 34 of those, and I purchase them. And now I get 170 bags, which each contains 15 fractal relics. So I get some really nice number of fractal relics back. That can be worthwhile as well. You can also get the 20 slot bags. That's very good point. Welcome, Sumuro. I have a lot of Heart of Thorns POF package on both Steam and client, but I never played the game. Which platform do you recommend to start by purchasing an expansion? I would use the normal client personally. I think the normal client is more useful. I think the Steam one is good, but I like the client better. Yeah. Yeah, someone else wins. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's see. Maybe you win. Don't worry. We can try. I noticed that infused rings show up a lot less than 20 charge kits. Yeah, I think infused rings that can be worthwhile to get, but I feel like most of the time I'm the biggest. Let's say the biggest prize that I win most often is the Ascended Salvage Kit. I think that I get once a month, maybe something like that, and I'm really happy about it always. Yeah, maybe every 2 months. I don't know. Depends a bit how lucky I am. But you can also, if you play Fractals and you don't have full Ascended stuff, you can also get the, what is it called? Ascension or something? Gift of Ascension? Yeah, you can get those Gifts of Ascension, and I think they usually cost 500 of the Fractal things, Fractal relics. And you can get them also for 25, so it's really, really cheap. So sometimes that shows up as well. Yeah. How did you manage to get that many Eternal Ice Shards, the daily chests, Imperial Marches, and strikes? Yeah, just do every day, the Iceblood Saga strike missions and collect the chests like you mentioned. Yeah, just save them up. That's the only thing. I just save stuff. Yeah. 20 Savage Kits were stupid this year so far. We got like 3 in quick succession in March, April. Yeah, it's actually crazy. I'm always really happy when I don't have to purchase them, because I get so much from Fractal stuff, and if I have them just laying around without purchasing them, I'm really happy. But now I'm almost running out of them again, so yeah. I hope that we will get one of them soon. Yeah, that would be good. One of the time was after the patch hit. Okay, I don't know. That might... Really, it changes the list? Interesting. I did not know that. Interesting. Yeah, I think that's also time to end today's stream. Thanks a lot for watching. It was a really nice stream. I had a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed it as well. I wish you a very nice weekend. And be sure to check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And thanks to you all for watching. Thanks for the nice stream. Thanks for the follows and the subs. Really appreciate your support. And I hope to see you around. Have a nice weekend. See you.